So the score is written as it would be facing us right on the score sheet. We would just simply put the score, as we call it, 7, or the slash first, then we would put the 7 on the top, the 3 on the bottom. And the same holds true at the next time they called the score. They're just about to lose the game, and they call the timeout at 10-4-2. So that's it. So that's the overview. We said yesterday that maybe there was a little confusion because we had done up the score sheets or did timeout boxes in very small so that you had a very good look at it. But that took away that overall perspective of the score sheet and what you would actually be seeing. So that's why we're introducing this one this morning to give you that overall view. So hopefully that clears up any confusion about how to mark the timeout.
Where are they?
Arizona, I think.
A long way.
Al,
You threw that so nice, it flowed it perfectly.
Go ahead, Alden.
And I did throw it faster. Yes,
when I look at this one, I still find it a little bit confusing. I think it would be better if the scores were actually filled in here. The only reason I say that, because the bottom one, you got 7-3. I'm assuming it's in the same game, but you
It
can
can't
never
be.
get to 7-3 if it was
If they're at
already
5-4.
5-4
Right.
earlier. So it looks
yeah,
like,
live the
It,
whole time.
it's the hired help that you get. You know, it's not always as good as you would like, but we do the best we can.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it's still 99% better than just looking at one by itself.
Yeah, no, that's good. Alden will pick that up. So again, if you could please,
What a great throw.
there's somebody out there that's got an open mic. If they could close that, please. Walter, maybe you could close everybody and we'll just open ours.
Okay, go ahead, Al. Open yours.
Had to find it. All right. If there's no further ado about timeouts, let's move forward on that one.
Can I just ask one quick question on the timeout? This is Betty.
Yeah, go ahead, Betty.
Yeah, how do you determine which score goes on the top and the bottom of the line, the diagonal line?
Yeah, okay. As I said yesterday, you write it down as you are going to announce the score when you start the next rally. So if the score was 5-4-1, first thing you do is put that diagonal slash in the appropriate timeout box. So if it's the first timeout, like it is here, you
Yeah.
simply put that slash in first. Because the score is 5-4-1, we're going to write the 5 at the top and the 4 at the bottom. Okay, is that clear, Betty?
Okay, so on the bottom, it's the same thing. It's the top score is the top person.
Yeah,
If you,
you're going
okay.
to turn around after they've called a timeout at 7-3-1 here. You're going to turn around and simply put the slash in first,
Yeah,
and then put the 7 in, and then put the 3 in. Just
Okay,
like
thank-
you're going to call it.
thank you.
All right, again, let's move on. So this is day 2, and we're going to cover a number of different common on-court situations, and then get into the less common court situations. The standard serve. We're going to, what makes the serve legal in a standard serve, or what makes it illegal? So it has to be hit in an upward motion. It doesn't say that here, and I'm going to amend that, but it has to have arc as well. That's the other very important terminology that is there, arc. So arc, again, is not like a line segment, as I always explain it. When I took physics, a line segment is a line that starts here and goes off into space and never comes back. If it's got arc, it's got a circular motion in it, an ellipse, and it's going to come around and go around the sun and come back, if you like. Okay, so it's going to form a sort of like a circle. It's the arc of a circle, and it's going to come back. So that's why that upward motion, like a bowling motion, where you're bringing your hand from low to top, needs to be there. The question becomes how much arc and how little arc is acceptable. And that again is where referee discretion comes in, and that's what makes it more difficult calling illegal serves. The paddle must be below the waist, okay? Waist previously was defined as the belly button. So somewhere in there, the belly button, the waist. If that paddle is striking the initial contact with that ball is above the waist or above the navel, if you like, it would be an illegal serve. The most common infraction I find in serving is that the highest point of the paddle head is above the wrist break. And again, the wrist break is where the two bones are at the side. So if it gets above that, then that would be an illegal serve. Again, we have players that serve so quickly and they do it so fast and so precisely, it is hard to determine whether it is equal to or above. If you cannot determine, it's like making a line call. If you do not 100% see that ball out, then the ball is in. And so in the paddle situation, if you don't see it above, then it isn't above. You do not make the illegal call. Okay, do not make a fault call on the serve. So those are the three rules, if you like, that make a serve legal or illegal. Now, new for 2021.
Alan, hang on.
Yeah.
Our good friend Isabel says, what the hell happened to 68? Slide
That was
68.
covered. Tell Isabel that she is a great watchdog, but that was covered yesterday.
Well, her and I both missed it. Portable net?
Well, I moved it. How did you guys get, how do you know portable net should be next?
We have the cheat sheet, Alan.
You do, don't you? I moved that later on.
You're coming to it.
I will come to it eventually.
Okay, settle down, Isabel.
All right. Going to the provisional serve for 2021. This is quite unique and it's been on the books for a while and USAPA has decided to give it a try. And that's why it's provisional. They're going to watch it very closely for the year, see what the situations that come out of it and make a decision. So now as a referee, what do you have to concern yourself with when that person is doing the drop serve? And it's made a little bit more difficult as well because they're not going to announce when they're doing a drop serve. They can alternate between the drop serve and the standard serve anytime they like. So you have to be able to differentiate what the heck they're doing and when they're doing it because different rules apply. So the serve may be dropped from any unaided height. That's important. Again, any unaided height. They're not allowed to get on their partner's shoulders. They're not allowed to have a boost up. They're not allowed to jump in the air. They're allowed to raise their hand as high as they can or anywhere they like and allow that ball to drop. I like to throw the word in here, release, okay? Because if you have the ball in hand, hang on. I don't have to go too far for a ball. You have the ball in your hand, you're going to simply release it and it's going to fall. There is no doubt, there is no energy being applied to that ball. What I have seen on the courts most times now, what people are doing is they're used to throwing the ball up. So they're throwing the ball up and they're simply releasing it. But that is very hard to get the point where there's kinetic energy. There's no movement upward or downward to have that release. So they need to hold the hand still and they need to drop or release the ball. That's the key thing to watch for on that one. They are also allowed to drop the ball from the paddle, okay? So what they would simply do is place the ball on the paddle, lift it up as high as they would like, and at that point, they are allowed to tilt the paddle and the ball is allowed to roll off the edge of the paddle. But you're not allowed to be moving the paddle upward or downward or giving it a slight toss in an upward direction to give it an aided height. Ball must be hit after it bounces on the playing surface one or more times. So just before we go into that, let's make sure everybody understands that we have the court surface and we have the playing surface. The playing surface is everything that is not the court, inside the boundaries of the white line. The court is the white lines and all the surface that you play on, okay, where the ball would be called in. So if you have a court that is blue, and then you have the white lines, and then you have the green surrounding area, that it would be the playing surface. Just so we all understand the terminology and how that applies. The ball then can be dropped and released, and it can bounce either in the playing surface, on the line of the court, or within the court. What is important that the server's feet must be behind the line, and as we discussed yesterday, within the boundaries of the court surface, or in the boundaries of the court that you're serving from, okay, with the extensions of the center line and the sidelines. The other point is that we talked again a little bit about it yesterday, was has to be visible to the receiver and the referee. That's the release needs to be visible to both of those people. If it's not visible, the receiver can say, and again, is not allowed to hit it and then call, I didn't see the release. They would simply just not play the ball. If it was served to them, hold their paddle up and say, I didn't see the release. And then the referee would make a determination and allow that ball to be replayed or not.
Question?
Nope, just let me go forward one more screen here. The 3 required elements of a conventional serve do not apply. So this is one of the big factors of bringing this rule in, is that it's going to help eliminate some of the controversy between referees and players when we're talking about calling illegal serves and making those hairline decisions about whether the paddle was above the wrist or what have you. So in this case, after they release that ball, there is no concern with relationship between paddle and ball or hand or any of the elements of the standard serve. Again, failure to drop the ball or release the ball properly, you call a fault. Rules regarding feet placement that we just discussed are still the same for both. Yes, I think it's a good idea to have a conversation regarding the provisional serve before we move on, because it's quite the change in hot topic.
Question from Reg.
Yep.
First question, if you drop the ball, release the ball, and you don't like how it bounced, you can catch it with your hand, I believe. Is that correct?
No, you can let it bounce. You can do whatever you like.
Yeah, you can let it bounce and then catch it with your hand and start over again?
You can.
Yeah, if by chance you drop it and you don't like the bounce and you catch it with your paddle, is that considered contact with the paddle and therefore a serve?
Yeah, I don't see that situation. That's a difficult one. I've not heard that one. I don't think it would be. I mean, again, that's up to the referee to determine whether the player was attempting to hit it. But yeah, I would not want to see people making contact with the paddle to the ball, because it could be construed as a serve. As soon as that paddle hits the ball, yeah, I would be tempted to have to call that.
And my third one, I think you've kind of answered it already. If I'm serving and I toss the ball and I realize that I've tossed it and given it energy and all the rest of it, I can just let it bounce, catch it, and start over again.
Or you can hit it on the way down and do a standard serve.
Correct. Okay, that answers them all.
Okay, so let's just go back to the one where you're talking about the bounces. So yes, you can throw that ball or release the ball as many times as you would like and wait for the proper bounce, but remembering that the referee has called the score and you have 10 seconds to make that contact with the paddle against the ball to make the serve. So if you haven't made that contact, then that would be within the 10 seconds, that's a fault. And I also asked the question, are you allowed to let the ball bounce twice before you hit it? And you are. So once you release it, it falls down, it's going to come up to, whatever level, and you don't have to hit it. It can drop further down and you can hit it. If you want to wait that long and get it that low, that would be still an acceptable drop serve. I don't see that happening too many times because it's hard enough to hit it after the one bounce is getting pretty low. Any other questions?
Al, I have a question.
Go ahead.
It goes back to the playing surface. I tried to clarify it up in my in the chat, but I screwed it up. The playing surface includes the court. You seem to say that the playing surface was just outside the court.
Yeah, you're right. The playing surface is the entire side of the end of the court that you're on.
So
That's right.
The playing surface includes the court, but not vice versa.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
So the surface outside of the court boundary then is still okay for the ball to bounce on.
Yeah.
You were standing on. Good point, Aiden, Alden. Anything else?
Al, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
Who are you talking?
Somebody else is on.
I'm not
Well,
getting,
My question, David, is I read somewhere where the person's foot can be, one foot can be inside the court and then they sort of step back off that foot and strike the ball. Now, is that true or not?
no, I think you're misconstruing that a little bit. What they're talking about is that 1 foot, now both feet need to be behind the boundary or the baseline boundary, if you like.
Yes.
And 1 foot at the time the ball is hit needs to be within the confines of the center line and the extension of the sideline as well. So if you can visualize that, Walter, this is maybe another area where a nice diagram would be really good to show the extensions of those lines and the serving box and the receiving box that forms the proper serve. So if you can follow me, you have the baseline, you have your center line, and you have your sidelines. And if you extend those beyond the player that is standing there, they have to be within that. 1 foot has to be on the surface, the playing surface, outside of the boundary of the baseline
Okay.
at the time the ball is hit. The other foot cannot be on the line of the center line or the extension of that sideline. If it is making contact outside that extension or on that line, that would be a fault. If they lift it up a half an inch at the time the ball makes contact or the paddle makes contact with the ball, and it is not, that would not be a fault. It would be completely legal. But you know, you were insinuating there that they've stepped into the court and then back out. As long as their feet are not in contact with that baseline and they're outside, then it's fine.
Okay. I was just curious as why they didn't do uniformity as the play is when you're in the no fault, no volley zone. You have to have both feet make contact before you can play the ball again.
I think the rationale for that is that some people have a serving style that they are moving at the time they hit. I know I play with a fellow that does, he moves about 3 or 4 steps. And when he hits it, he's only on 1 foot, the other foot is lifted, and he's got that momentum and that weight of his body moving forward like a golf shot, if you like, that is propelling that ball.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Got a question, Alan?
Yes.
I understand that the drop serve is a provisional serve, but I'm wondering with the drop serve, what is a legal position of the paddle in your hand? In other words, can you cock your wrist?
That's what I said. You can do anything. There is no concern with where the paddle is on your, in relationship to the ball at the time it is struck. So you can do anything you like at that point. I think somebody asked that question to Don Stanley on one of the chats down south, that if you laid on the ground, you could actually hit an overhead.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we'd like to see that happen. There's always challenges out there.
Alan, Jim here. I got one question. On the new serve, when you release the ball, is the ball allowed to drop inside the court, or does it have to bounce outside the court before you strike it?
It can drop anywhere. The only concern is where the feet of the server are at the time of contact with the paddle to the ball.
Thank you.
Hi, question, Alan, Terry. The question, just to clarify, so if I throw the ball up in the air and mistake and then realize it, let it bounce, I can pick it up and do it again, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
You can also throw the ball up in the air and hit it before it bounces. Then you have a standard serve, and then the paddle concerns with the relationship to the rules have to be applied. But you can do that.
You can't throw the ball in the air. My understanding is you have to release the ball.
That's
You guys
right.
are saying throw the ball in the air, but you can't do that, right?
That's right. You can't do that. That as soon as you throw the ball in the air, then you're going to have to either let it bounce and catch it, and or you hit it before it bounces, and it's a standard serve. Do you follow me on that one? I mean, she asked the question: if I throw the ball up by mistake and realize it and let it bounce and catch it, I can then bring it up and release it. That's correct. You can do that. I just threw in there that if you throw it up by mistake, well, you can also just hit a standard serve at that point.
All right, I got it.
Okay.
2 points from the chat line, Al.
Okay.
One says, no body part can be outside the playing lines when serving. And the other one, I think you just covered, but you completely missed the serve, but you can reserve within 10 seconds, right?
That's correct.
So-
So what was the body part outside what?
No body part can be outside the imaginary lines, etc.
No, that again is a fallacy because it's only one dimensional. So we're only talking about contact with the court surface at the time the paddle hits the ball, right? So your arm can be overstretched. It can reach over the boundary as long as the ball or the feet are inside. The ball actually could be outside as long as the feet are inside. It doesn't matter. Okay. Let's move on from provisional drop serve. Good. I think you all got it. And I really like the feedback from people saying the release of the ball, because again, I think that's so important that we're just simply releasing it. No energy applied. I'm just thinking, having said that, there was one situation that Mark Pfeiffer did talk to us as CRs. We had a chat, and he did bring up one situation that I am sort of loath to pass on, but you need to hear it. If they're saying it's good, then you need to be aware of it. And that situation is where that player is going to move their body on release. So you extend your hand out with the ball out here, and you now take a step forward and release the ball. I'm trying to get it in the camera here. So you take a step forward and you release, and you simply let that ball go. Your momentum of your body moving forward is allowed, and that ball then would not be falling straight down. It would be somewhat propelled by the body's motion moving forward. So it would go down on an angle. They're saying that is allowed. So again, with me saying there's no energy to be applied to that ball, it is simply released, is still true in relationship to the hand, but not the entire body. So hopefully that hasn't confused anybody. We'll move on. Server out of position or wrong server. How do you handle that situation? After the ball has been served, announce service fault, and you state second server or side out, right? That's your standard line. You have to know at all times what are you going to say? You go service fault, second server. Or if it was the second server, then you have to call side out. Explain briefly as necessary. So you would say service fault, incorrect server, service fault, incorrect position, service fault, incorrect server, and incorrect position. So this is something new for this year. They want you to identify both faults, any number of faults that happen on the one occasion. You give them the two faults that occur. So you need to let them know what both things that they've done wrong. After the score has been called, if the serving team recognizes the potential service error and makes the change. receiving team may need time to reposition. All right. So you call time, you step in and announce you will recall the score. This is an important one. As soon as you recognize, if they recognize that they might be in the wrong position or they might have the wrong server, they will often turn to you and say, ref, am I the correct server? And this is after you've called the score, and you would say no. So what they do is they toss the ball over to their partner who's standing on the other side, and they serve. And they was allowing a quick serve situation, and they would catch their opponents out of position because they were lined up appropriately for the other server to serve the ball, and the other partner was up at the net. So now as the referee, I think the next slide probably tells you. Let me just go there. Whoops. So you throw your hands up in the air as soon as you say time. That's the referee. You go time. All right. I'll recall the score, and you allow them to get into position and properly align for the receiving team. That's a protection for the receiving team more than anything. Okay. Probably have seen that one happen a couple of times. After the served ball has been returned, you announce receiver fault and you state the point. Explain briefly as necessary. Incorrect receiver, incorrect position. So again, that's covered. I think we got that.
Question.
Yeah.
If the other team is out of position, my serve is out. What's the call?
Sorry,
If my serve is out.
Oh, good question. I've seen that happen. So if if the receiving team is lined up incorrectly, the score is 4-3, for example. So we have the server serving with the service band from the even court on the right-hand court, and the receiver, the other banded person, is opposite them, but their score is 3. That person's not in the right position. So you pick that up as the referee. You haven't led on. You simply keep to your normal situation. You call the score 4-3-2, and that serve is made. And now the receiver, as soon as they strike that ball, they call fault. What the question being asked is, if that ball is served long and that person obviously doesn't have an opportunity to return the ball, there is no fault committed. The fault, then all you would say is second server or side out, and then you would allow the ball to go to the other side. If they still haven't caught on, they only have 3 and they're not even, and that server is in the wrong position, then they're probably going to serve at 3-4-1 from the wrong position. So you wait for that to happen and you call it as soon as the ball or the paddle makes contact with the ball.
Okay.
So
It's the game that I saw that somebody just gave me a link. That was happened. So the referee made the right call on that. That's what he called.
Right. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's the proper procedure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alan,
Yes.
if the receiver is in the wrong position, realizes it, and asks the question, they have the 10 seconds to reposition themselves?
Yeah, no, they don't, because the server, the clock is running on the server. So if they don't realize it prior to the score being called, and they don't ask the referee, what's our score, before the referee completely calls the score, then they're in the wrong position. And if they realize it after the score is called, all they can do at that point is, before the contact is made with the ball, with the paddle, is to call a timeout. That's their only legal defense. Otherwise, they have to scramble. So again, good question. And that's the only way out of that situation, is for that team to immediately call timeout. They can't ask a question because, again, the score has been called. No, am I wrong? I'm wrong there. The new rule does allow them to say, ref, am I in the correct position? And if that ball has not been struck, then they are allowed to stop. So I correct myself on that one. The new rule does allow for that change. You don't have to call your timeout. You can ask a question. That's one where I have a little concern on. This is the very point. But again, I'm not to argue with the USAPA Rules Committee. We are to follow it after they have issued the rules. So I'm going to be watching this one closely because that's one of my areas of greatest concern. So good question.
Alan, what's the ref's response if they are in the wrong position? Is it simply no, call the score?
If they ask, ref, am I in the right position? You answer yes or no, and then allow it to catch. But yes, you would recall the score after a question. You go time again, answer the question, and then recall the score. And
Okay, so they can't drag their heels. They've got that 10 seconds to get in the right position or else. Oh.
Well, two different things. Let's be sure here, because this again is an important aspect. You have the server has 10 seconds after the score has called to serve the ball. The receiving team at that point is already assumed by the referee to be ready, because that's why the referee called the score. They were lined up correctly. They appeared to be ready. Everything was good, or they should be ready. Okay. And then they've called the score. At that point, the receiver realizes he may or she may be in the wrong position. Then they would simply ask the referee, ref, am I the right server? As soon as the ref hears the question coming, they go time to stop that ball from being served. Okay, so that server does not make contact with the ball, and therefore the question is legal, the play will be stopped, and they are allowed to intervene. And then they would change position, and then the referee would call the new score and start the 10-second clock again.
Okay, but at the same time, they're going to reposition in a timely fashion.
Yes, yeah. Your job is to keep things moving, but they are allowed fair and equitable time to move to their positions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the team can't do that all game and expect the referee to keep them in position.
No, that's the other valid point. No, you would get them for unsportsmanlike at that point, and you would just have a talk to them and say, look, I'm not going to continue to do this. I'm going to call the score. Please move into position. And if they continue to stop it and interrupt that server from serving, then that would be an unsportsmanlike technical warning. Serving before the complete score is called. Call service fault, followed by second server or side out. Note, could deviations in your cadence have contributed to the fault? Then it would be a referee error. All right, so that's something for you, again, to be very cognizant of and ask yourself, did I cause that? So if you go 4-3-2 and they serve the ball, no problem. If you go, and they're now, because of the new rules that they are allowed to start their service motion before the complete score is called, we know that people are going to be pushing the limits. They're going to be going, you're going to go 4-3, and they're going to start moving, and they're expecting you to go 4-3-2. They've got that timing down, and they're going to hit the ball right as you finish saying 2, that's gone off. If you go 4-3, then stop for a half a second, look at your score sheet to see if your number pin is on 1 or 2, then you go 4-3-2, and they hit the ball before you get the 2 out, that's a referee error. Okay. Service foot faults. Call foot faults immediately upon the violation, followed by second server or side out. And what it says here, you don't elaborate, you don't debate. You caught them on a foot fault, it's a foot fault, move on. Second server, side out. Primary responsibility during and following a volley is the non-volley zone violations. Right? So the no volley zone violations. You want to be paying attention 100% to that non-volley zone, especially when there is momentum. A person is moving towards the no volley zone and may get the ball and may not let the ball bounce and may hit a volley. Then we are concerned with that person. We have no concern whatsoever with where the hit ball goes. We are simply watching the feet of the person who hit the ball, and we're looking at the lines of the non-volley zone to make sure there is no violation made, to make sure they arrest their momentum prior to getting close to that non-volley zone line. That's your job, and you need to do it 100% of the time. Anything the player is wearing or carrying or contacting touches the non-volley zone as a result of a volley, that would be an infraction. So I think we all know that from being players. If your hat comes off after you volleyed the ball and it touches that non-volley zone line or goes into the no volley zone, then it's a fault. The nearing, doesn't matter. Your sunglasses, doesn't matter. If by also, if you volley a ball and you sort of lose your momentum or your balance, and you fall into your partner who's got a toe on the non-volley zone, and you make contact with him, but you don't touch the non-volley zone, that would still be considered a non-volley zone violation. So you call fault immediately, and again, second server, side out.
Question.
Or point. Go ahead.
If your forward momentum is clearly going to carry you past the no volley zone and your partner grabs your shirt and pulls you back, is that acceptable?
It is, as long as they're not touching the non-volley zone at the time they make contact with you, that's fully acceptable. If you're standing there teetering on the non-volley zone, and that's happened lots of times where you're standing there, you're just about to lose your balance, you're about to go in, your partner can push you back, grab you, pull you back, tackle you, do whatever you want just to get you out of there. And again, do not forget that the non-volley zone violation is one of the only faults that can be called after a dead ball situation. All right, so if the ball is dead, you can't call faults, but you can call non-volley zone infractions until that person has gained their position in the court after hitting a volley. And that's why you're watching them. You're not watching where the hit ball goes. You're not even going to watch the next person who is on the other side of the net unless you can get your peripheral vision to be able to see both of them at the same time. You're going to be watching that person who's unbalanced after hitting a volley and making sure that they do not touch that line. Referee error, wrong score called. This happens quite frequently. You simply call time before the third shot. Okay, as soon as you realize that you've called the wrong score, you can stop play anytime, and you are to stop play anytime up until the third shot is made. So we have the serve, number one, we have the return of serve has been made. It now comes back to the serving team, that return of serve shot. And before the server or the server's partner makes contact with it to make that third shot, and you realize you've made a service, you called the wrong score, you simply go time, hands up in the air, stop play immediately, and you go referee error. I called an incorrect score. I'll recall the score. They get back into position. You call the correct score and restart that rally. But this again is a new point in time. They have up until that third shot to stop play. If they stop play and it is not an incorrect score before they hit it, it would be a fault. Go ahead. I heard another question.
That was my question. The players on the court can also call up until the third strike.
The third shot. That's right.
Thank you.
No volley zone, no volley zone foot fault called on the bounced ball. So you inadvertently, the ball's bounced, but you think it was hit as a volley, and you call a foot fault. You simply announce referee error, and please, we'll have a replay. And you apologize profusely after they've hit the ball 40 times back and forth, and you've done that. It's a little embarrassing. Player readiness. Following a dead ball, players are expected to move to their respective positions without delay. Again, I can't stress this one enough, that your job is to keep that momentum of the game flowing and usually allow the serving team to dictate the pace of the game. If they're wanting to go quickly, the receiving team should be in position and ready to move. If they're dragging their heels and doing it, you need to be on top of that one. And we call a technical warning on them for delaying the game. Call the score when all players are ready. Allow the receiving team receiver reasonable time to become ready. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that just goes without saying. And again, the situation we talked about yesterday, if you missed it, if that receiver or the receiver's partner had to go off the court to retrieve a ball and they pass it over to the serving team, we are going to wait until that person moves, and they should be moving, you know, at the normal pace back to their position. And I would allow them to fully gain their position in a second to just get right comfortable in it before I would recall the score. Okay. If I'm pushing somebody and the server is taking too long, in my opinion, and I don't have to wait for them to go back, line up, do whatever routine they have to do. I may call the score when they're just before they're getting into position. If they're starting to slow it down, the server, I just call the score. Same thing with the receivers. If the receivers are moving slowly to position, you just simply call the score and start that 10-second clock. That gets everybody aware that you're not going to allow that slow play to drag on. Stacking. Now, we promised we would talk about stacking yesterday and how confusing it is for some referees. It's not all that bad. You concentrate only on the proper server and the proper receiver, you based on the score. So again, going over that from yesterday, based on the score, we're only watching the server's identification or the server band, that person with it. Remember on our score sheet, we have highlighted whether they're wearing a red shirt, a white ball cap, ponytail, or whatever. That's the first server we're tracking. And we're only tracking the starting server of both teams. And we're only worried where they are based on the score. So if the score is 3-3, for example, what are we going to see as the first server to the team on our left? We're going to see no service bands for that server. We're going to look over at the receiver and we're going to see no service bands because we're tracking the server's bands and we know that they're both in the odd courts on the left-hand courts of the respective ends of the court. So they're on the respective sides of the ends of their court. So we know that everybody is in the proper position and we're good to go. So now in a stacking situation, and whether they're stacking receiving and stacking serving, we would have both players standing in the odd court. If they're going to be stacking and serving, so we would have them both standing in the odd court. We're only concerned now with the score being 3. The person who's got the ball and the person who's going to hit the ball has got no band on. And if that's the case, then that's a legal serve. Now we're watching the stacking team on the other side. They won't normally be standing in the same court. All we're making sure is that that receiver has no band on that is going to strike that ball. Or when they do strike the ball, that it was the one without the band on because it was 3-3.
Hi, Al. This is Walter Brennan, and I'm a newbie. I've never heard the term stacking. What does stacking mean?
Yeah, it's a process that allows the serving team, if the servers are using it, let's say, they're both standing on the same side of the court. So if the score, if they're starting their serves are on the right-hand court, so if you can visualize having both players standing there, and then after the serve, that person who is served is going to move to the other side of the court. They're doing that because they normally have a left-handed player and they want that left-handed shot to be in the middle. Therefore, that left-handed player is going to stay in the even court or the right court during that hit, during that rally. If you follow that. And then the receiving team is doing the same thing. They've usually got a left-handed player, or it could be that the stronger player they want on the right-hand court or whatever. And so they just align themselves that way. So that's what stacking is, where you have both.
So what we're basically saying then is that two people cannot be in the same side of the court when they're serving.
No, we're not saying that at all. That's the opposite. They can be. As a matter of fact, any player can stand anywhere on or off the court when the serve is being made, as long as they're within the boundaries. We don't care where the partner is. The partner can be anywhere.
Thank you.
Okay, so you probably need to go on YouTube and get to some of the gold medal matches, and you will see them stacking, especially in mixed doubles, where we have a male and a female. They'll usually leave the female on one side and a preferred side, depending on how they want to attack their opposition, and they often stack. But certainly left-handed players and a right-handed player will stack almost all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So again, can't stress how important it is that all day long, all you're doing is tracking the identification band and the person who is wearing that. And if they're on the left, you know that the score is even, or odd, I should say. Okay, the score is odd. So you know that. Portable net rolls. There it is. Slide
Al?
68 appeared. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Doug from Red Deer. One question. When we change servers between games in a match, how do you adjust the score sheet?
Can we come back to that one? Because it's not fitting where we are. Walter, you take a note of that one?
Yeah, we covered that yesterday quite well, but I'll make a note.
Okay, thank you. So portable nets. You'll often, even at tournaments, there's a lot of portable net situations on tennis courts or wherever they have to get the number of courts up. So you'll come across this. So you need to be very familiar with the rules that are associated with portable nets. The ball strikes a horizontal bar or the center base before going over the net. Obviously, it's a fault. The ball was never going to make it over to the other side. It's an obvious fault. Ball goes over the net and hits the center base, the horizontal bar, or even gets caught between that before landing. That equates to a replay. Okay. Ball bounces with enough backspin after going over the net to hit the horizontal bar or the center post or even the net material. That is a fault. Now, a lot of people don't know that one. They don't recognize that one. So the ball has been hit properly. It goes over the net, but it's got enough backspin to come back and go into the net before the opposition can play it. And it has not bounced a second time. That's a let. Right? It's a replay. Now, again, you need to be aware of those when you're dealing with portable nets at all times. Okay. And that's true, not just portable nets. That's true of a standard net as well. I just might want to point out, especially that last situation where I'm saying a ball goes over the net with enough backspin to come back and hit the net. That's a let. So that's just not for portable nets in that situation. Keep both sides equally informed during any discussions, any questions that are happening. So if one team asks you a question and it's to do with procedure or to do with something that not just their score, you want to make sure that the other team, you keep them apprised of what the question was. They just asked, or you say, well, please come in here, so that at least one player from the other team comes in, and you keep both sides equally informed of what's happening. Again, it's transparency. We're not wanting to appear to be favoring any one team where we're talking and not sharing. Conference in center of the court to avoid spectator input if the situation requires it. So if you're going to get into a longer winded situation and an explanation or questioning, absolutely. What I always say, that center court is where it's my office as the referee. And I call people into my office and have a little powwow there and we have a chat. I invite players from both teams to avoid perception. Yes, we talked about that. If discussions become intense, you just want to quickly end it, that's fine. Cut it off and say, no further explanation, let's play. 15 seconds. Send all parties to their neutral corners, to their ends of the court, and then say, we'll resume play, and you announce score. Challenging calls or rulings made by you as the referee. When requested to or necessary to resolve disputes, you summon the head referee or the tournament director. An important point here is if the other team says, I'd like to see the tournament director, stop talking. Do not push anymore. They've asked for their lawyer and you're the cop. You're bound to just simply stop the conversation and call for either one of those people, head ref or the tournament director. Normally they ask for the tournament director, and it's whether the tournament director sends the head referee or whatever the situation may be. Now that's an awkward situation if you're down at Nationals on court 44. You're probably a 5-minute walk away from the desks. So, you know, they do have radios, so that's what you have to be aware of. How do I quickly get the tournament director to this court so that we can continue with the play? If the referee's ruling is correct after a disputed call, if they're disputing a decision point, then they would lose their timeout. You would simply assess them a timeout and then a technical warning. If you look down on your score sheet and they've used both of their timeouts, then that team would then be assessed a technical foul, and then you would put down the TF in the box, which we'll get to, and in the back of the sheet, you turn it over and you would write down the score and you would write down the situation which has transpired and make a little note of it and why you had to call a technical foul, and that's it. You've done your due diligence. Broken balls. This is pretty normal thing that it's happening. You're in the middle of a play and all of a sudden the ball is hit to the other side and it takes a funny bounce, or it doesn't bounce at all, or it even sounds funny. Play continues. You do not stop play as a player or the referee. Fault if a player does stop play. As soon as if they stop play and say, hey, ball broke, and didn't return it, it's an immediate fault. Before the next serve is made, they have all that time, that point in time situation again, to turn around to you and say, hey, ref, did that ball break on that last shot? Did it, did it affect the outcome of did it affect the rally? And you have to make that determination. And so what I do, normally as a referee, you're on top of this. I mean, I know right away when a ball might have broken, and I simply say, after the ball stops, I said, pass me the ball, please. And I want them to throw it to me. If that person looks at the ball and starts examining it and then puts their finger in the hole and says, yeah, it was broken, ref, look, and they have further damaged it, you're now not able to make a fair determination of whether or not the ball affected the play, because they could have increased the damage on the ball, made it worse. So you want to just simply see it beforehand to determine how large the crack is it all the way through? And would it have contributed to that person not being able to return the ball? And if it is, you determine that it was, you simply say, ball's broken, here's a new ball, we'll play a replay on that last shot, please. So again, if I didn't make the point, if they tamper with it, they stand on it and say, yeah, the ball was broken, and they stomp on it before you get to look at it, you issue a technical warning to that player for destroying the property. Line calls. Now, here's another good subject matter that we'll get into some discussion on, I'm sure. Upon appeal, overrule if 100% positive of where the ball hit. So if you're not 100% positive, you're 99.9% sure, but you're not positive, there's doubt, and therefore you cannot call that ball out. And let me tell you, as an experienced referee, the more I referee, the less line calling I want to do, because I've seen so many errors. And when you're working with line judges who have the best view of that line and are looking down the line, they can tell within fractions of inches of where the ball has struck. When you're on the other side, or you're looking down at the end of the court and you're 20 feet away, it is very difficult to make a full determination of where that ball is, unless the ball is seen to be, and you see space between the line and the ball, and you know it was out, then make the call. When challenged, no problem. But if it's close, I would loathe you to be making line calls and overruling line calls on the court. Do not say, I think the ball was this or that, because as soon as you say, I think, there is doubt, you're not positive. So you do not say it. You state ruling clearly and firmly. The ball was in, the ball was out. The moment a player or a team appeals to the referee or asks the opponent's opinion, they lose the right to make any subsequent in or out calls regarding that line call for that rally, right? So as soon as they ask, they look up at you and say, ref, was that in or out? And you say, yes, it was out or in, then they can't comment on it any further. Same thing holds true if they ask their opponents, if they look up and say, did you see that? And they say, yes, I saw it in, then they can't say, oh, come on, it was out. That's not on. If the line judges and the referees cannot make a line call, the rally is to be replayed. So again, a very important one. But you as a referee, we'll talk more when we get into the line judge, working with line judges on how the team officiates and calls lines. But it's important that you have all the line judges to canvas, and you've got all the eyes to bring into a situation and canvas and make sure that you're getting the right call before you make a determination.
Alan, question?
Go ahead.
If a ball is out and the receiver, pardon me, if a ball is in and close to the line and the receiver has called it out, then the server has to appeal to the referee. Otherwise, you keep quiet. Is that correct?
Well, yes, they need to appeal to the referee at any time. That's where they should be going first. You shouldn't go to the other team, really. When you have a referee, you want to appeal the call to the referee. Referee, did you see that? And the referee would say yes or no. Now, don't forget, as I have been mentioning all along, as a referee, I have been pointing out your primary and the most important duties and responsibilities you have. Unfortunately, line calling is not high on that list, all right? You are paying 100% attention to any volley balls and that person who's standing by the non-volley zone. And that's where if they volley the ball, you do not, that is an order. You do not follow the flight of the ball. You keep your eyes pinned on the feet of that person approaching the non-volley zone. Therefore, if they ask you what transpired with the ball, you can't tell them. You just say, I did not see it. I was watching the feet. And that's why it's important when you are briefing the players before a match that they are to make verbal and hand signals on balls, so that when you've got your eyes glued to that non-volley zone and they yell out, then you know that the ball was hit out and it's all over with. So you haven't seen it, but you've got a very timely line call. That's the way it should be played.
Yeah.
Alan, I have a question in the previous slide. With the last line, you're saying that if the line judge and the referee cannot make a line call, it's replayed. I always thought that if you can't call it out, it's called in.
Yeah, I think what we're saying here is that's right. That's the usual play, is that it was in. But if when you have a disputed call and you have an officiating team, then that team has not been able to make the proper line call, will replay.
Okay.
Hey, Al, on that last one about I think the question might be more related. When can the referee overrule the player's call, and only on appeal? You don't overrule unless you're asked.
Oh, that's right. I mean, you don't comment on any line call that has been made until you're appealed to, with the exception that we covered yesterday, is when you're working with line judges and the line judges become unsighted, then the referee is empowered to make a line call. But again, that referee, is maybe not going to be in the best position to make a line call on a very closely hit ball to that line. So they probably are not going to be able to make it, and therefore we would have to have a replay on that situation. Okay, did that answer that, Walter?
I think so. Yeah.
All right, so let's get on to spectators and coaching. Something again that happens periodically. Coaching is any communication that a player or a team may act upon. And I put in direction to gain an advantage or avoid rules violation. So anytime a spectator out there is giving direction, something that can be acted upon, then we have a likely coaching situation, right? It's not, hey, that was a good shot, keep it up. That's just normal chatter out there to provide encouragement. But when they start saying, yeah, you know, drop that ball or whatever, they're providing direction, they're calling for a shot, they're telling them specifically to take a timeout, or they even give a visual signal. No words are said at all. They simply go like that to the team to call a timeout. That is coaching. Now, interestingly, as I pointed out a couple of times, in the rule book, there's usually a fair amount of discretion for the referee to make calls. In the rule book, it is abundantly clear. I think it's one of the few times that the word shall is used, and it says the referee, upon determining that coaching has happened, the referee shall issue a technical warning. All right, it doesn't say you can issue, well, there's no verbal warnings anymore, and you can't issue a technical foul. It comes to, you shall issue a technical warning. You just make the determination, was that coaching? Was it not coaching? If it's a yes, then it's a technical warning. Any subsequent coaching, however, would then become a technical foul. Excuse me. Coaching is permitted only during timeouts, all timeouts, at end changes, and between games. Coaching is allowed. I think you'll find no other time is coaching permitted. Medical timeouts. Now this has been made a little bit more difficult to understand, so we need to go through this one quite clearly. Medical timeout is issued upon request. You summon medical personnel to assess the validity of the request. So if you're in a tournament and there's no medical staff being designated, you're again calling the tournament director. You start the timer. When? Not when the situation has been asked for, but you start it when medical personnel arrive at the scene. And they have 15 minutes after arriving for that player to be back on their feet and ready to play. They'll make that determination whether they're releasing them to play or they're unable to continue, then it's a match forfeit. The other important factor is that it is 1 15-minute timeout, medical timeout, or less per player per match, but only one self-requested medical timeout. So again, the scenario is a person falls down, scrapes their knee, no blood, gets up, not able to play right away, got a little bit of a pain in the knee, walks it off, calls for a medical timeout. Medical comes, evaluates them, says, yeah, they're fine after 5 minutes. And they come back in and they start playing. Then they subsequently say, my knee still hurts, I need more time. They don't get any more time unless they want to use their timeouts. If they have any remaining, it's all over with. They can't have any more medical timeouts. If they're unable to continue, then it's a match forfeit at that point.
Question, Alan?
Let me just finish and then we'll come back.
Okay.
So mark the medical timeout box below the player's name. Right now, we put in on the new score sheet, there's a little box right below each player's name, because unlike technicals, medical timeouts are attributed to a player, where technicals are issued to a team. So that's why the technical boxes are on the right of the timeout boxes, and your medicals, again, are underneath the person's name. So you would simply put an X in there that they've taken a medical timeout. And at the back, you would flip your sheet back up at the open end where it's not clipped to the clipboard. You flip that back, you write down MTO, you write down the score, you write down the player's name, you write down the situation that transpired.
Question?
Nope, let me carry on. If you don't
Okay.
mind, get right to the end. Record the details in the back of the score sheet without removing the score sheet from the clipboard. Yep, just talked about that. If request is not valid, okay, so medical looks at this person and says, no, there is no physical damage, there is no reason for it. You're not going to come across this too often, but then you would assess them a regular timeout and issue a technical warning. There was a situation years ago at one of the tournaments where one of the top players feigned an issue, and that's why they had to deal with it and put it in the rule book, and that's why it's there. So they would be assessed a regular timeout and a technical warning. If medical said nope, there was no causative factor, no reason for a medical. If they've already, like the other one, where they've already used their timeouts and they don't have any to take away, you issue then a technical foul. And also, as severe damage to them, no further medical timeouts are available for that requesting player for that match. Now, may be initiated by the referee, and we'll talk about that in a second, but there was somebody asking a question, so let's go to that.
Yes, I was, but I think my question was answered by the new rule may be initiated by the referee. I was thinking of a player without a timeout available, but is bleeding on the court.
Okay, that's a different situation, and so we might have covered that later, but let's just cover it now since you've asked it.
Thank you.
Blood situation where they haven't injured themselves needing any medical attention other than maybe a Band-Aid, and that's why now part of the referee's kit is to include, you know, the two pencils, 2 balls, and all the other paraphernalia. You're to bring bandages with you and to stop that bleeding. So blood on the court is a referee timeout, and the blood bleeding needs to be stopped first and foremost. And before play continues, all blood must be removed from the court. So as a tournament directors need to have people on staff there ready with a bucket with disinfectant and what have you to be able to clean up any blood on the court before play continue on that court. So again, as a tournament director, they want to deal with that quickly because they want that those games to be turned over as quickly as possible. So again, referee timeout, stop the bleeding of the person, clean up the court, resume play.
What about blood on the uniform or on the shirt or?
As long as it's dry and as long as it's not going to be transferred, it's fine. You would prefer them to change their shirt, but it's not absolutely necessary if it's not overwhelming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
So-
comment on a concussion on the court. What would you say?
Yeah, good question again. There's nothing in the rule book that talks about concussions, but head trauma is now, like in all sports, if you suspect it, you would call in the medical personnel and probably the tournament director, and you would wait for them to come back to you on a diagnosis of that. But play is suspended until they get cleared by medical.
Hey, Alan? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Denny, go ahead.
Getting back to the blood, if I can.
Yes.
If you see blood on a person, let's say on his arm, and the balls, there's not a dead ball, do you call the play right away or you wait for a dead ball?
No, you always wait for a dead ball. Okay, there is no time in the rule book where the player or the referee should be stopping play during a rally. All rallies are to be concluded before plays is stopped by anyone.
Okay,
Otherwise,
the next one, is there medical gloves in the kit?
no, that's where you call medical.
No, I mean just for Band-Aids and that.
No, no, you would just, give the person the Band-Aid and allow them to do their thing.
So you give them the Band-Aids, okay.
Yeah, you don't have to be the first aid attendant and apply it.
All right, okay.
Alan, so your response theory, if before the referee can call a fault or stop a play, the rally has to continue. But
Yes.
if it's a foot fault in a no volley zone, you can stop the play right away, right?
Oh, yeah. We're talking about broken balls. We're talking about twisting ankles. We're talking about players falling, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but anytime there's a fault, and as soon as you call, the fault, the ball is dead and play stops. Right? As soon as you call time, play is stopped and the ball is dead. Right, so referee initiated is a new rule for 2021, 10H2, it's written right there. And I would advise all of you to look and read the rule verbatim right out of the handbook, but we'll hit the highlights here. Players may not be aware of their own problem is the scenario. And again, this scenario happened at Nationals last year where we had somebody with severe heat, hydration issues or dehydrated, and they were not aware. They were starting to lose coordination and sort of falling all over the place. And so the referee saw it happening, but was not empowered to do anything officially in the rule book. And when asked, the player said, yeah, I'm fine. They were fine right up until they landed on their head. So there was felt that referees should maybe have the power to intervene. And that's why this change has been made. Referees can ask for medical assessment. So you would simply stop play and say, I'm calling for medical. I would like them to have a look at you. And again, the time starts when medical arrives at the court. If there's no issue found, if they say, no, the player's fine, then play would be allowed to continue. If medical personnel treats that player and the player is able to continue within the 15 minutes, one medical timeout is charged against that if available to that player. If not available, it's considered a referee timeout. I have a little bit of an issue with that one because if a person has already used their medical timeout for twisting an ankle in game 1, and in game 3, the heat hydration comes in there and they're losing coordination and I call for medical, then they are given another one. So I have a little issue in that one. Is Marcia Frezzo still listening in? Or is
Yeah, I'm still here.
Do you want to make any comment on that one, Marcia? Putting you on the spot here a little bit, but
That's okay. All right. So in situations like that, we are really giving the referee what's the word?
Ability, the power?
Ability to have the player examined for safety reasons. We don't want any, any sort of an issue arising because the player should stop playing. So basically, you're calling a referee timeout. It's not really, we're not claiming it another medical timeout. It's an assessment to determine whether the player can be allowed to continue playing. Okay, so really it's either they can continue playing or else they're going to have to retire from the match.
But then, Marcia, you take it to the next step where the medical then gives them some water and treats them for a few minutes and then says they're allowed to play.
Yeah, then they're allowed to go.
Okay.
They're allowed to play on. But it's not technically, the rules committee decided that this would be allowed and not claimed as another medical timeout.
So then, so then, are we correct then in this slide where it states that a medical timeout is charged if they look at them and treat them? Is medical timeout charged at all if the referee has stopped play? What you're saying, it would be a no.
It's a medical
Okay,
timeout.
it's a
If it was
medical
valid.
timeout if they have not had a medical timeout charged to them.
Okay.
Okay, but that's so that you don't have those players who really need a medical timeout, but they're not wanting to call it themselves. Okay, so if the referee deems that they might be in some sort of medical stress and they have attention by the medical personnel, they will get charged the medical timeout. But in the situation where the person has already used a medical timeout and there's another situation arises where it appears that they may need medical attention, so to determine whether or not they continue playing, that's what that assessment is, where it, if they can continue on, then that they get to continue on. Does that
Okay.
make sense? I'm not probably explaining it.
No, you explained it. You answered my question, my concern. My concern is still there. I see one,
Yes.
Before and after is different. Therefore, it's somewhat punishing if but that's fine. If that's the way it's to be administered, then we just wanted to make sure we had that correct.
Correct.
I have a question on that one. Marcia, I'm not sure I'm understand correctly. If the players already take at first game is medical timeout, and then the referee asks medical team to come because he suspect heat exhausted or something like that. Medical, they came, they said, yes, there is. We have to hydrate him and give him more cold with ice and things like that. After a few minutes, he is not ready to go to play. He will need some more minutes and maybe 10 minutes more.
No.
Is it a retirement or
Yes.
is it? Okay, at this point, if the player is not ready to go play and quite fast, there's a retirement.
That's correct. If there's an if the player has utilized their medical timeout and another situation arises where the medical team has to be called out, the assessment should be made right away and a decision made as to whether or not they can continue. If they're going to need to be administered to for a period of time, then they need to take a retirement.
Okay,
So
if the players need care and you don't have any timeout, medical timeout or regular timeout, it's a retirement automatically.
Yes, once the medical team says that they cannot retire, that they can't continue on. Yes.
Confirmed by the medical.
Yes,
Okay.
confirmed by the medical team.
Thank you.
Marcia, one last point there. Does the referee, are they obligated to call the tournament director to make a final determination on that player's ability to go forward?
They certainly can. Well, in most of those situations, the tournament director will be there as well. But yes, I mean, that would be prudent to do.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
I wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's move on to continuation of documentation of the MTO or the medical timeout. So here's the score sheet. And you can see that the box is nice and large here in this close up, and you simply would place an X in there. And then on the back of the score sheet, what we've written here, you would just flip that end of the score sheet up, and across the back, you would write MTO, Jim Smith, game number 1, the score, and hurt the ankle, and medical valid MTO is fine. Yeah. So that's all you would need to do. It provides all the information that is needed. We pretty well have the name here anyway, as you can see with the X, but you can still put it here. What the situation was and medical's assessment of it was valid, and what the score was, so we know when it happened during the course of the action. That's all you need. That's well documented, nicely done. And I really like the new score sheets that have got these boxes in it, because that helps determine, certainly show where all these markings go. Before, they were going here, left, right, and center. You were writing them all over the place. So now it's got a determined spot for you to put it. Equipment timeout. All right, another type of timeout at the referee's discretion, only after all normal timeouts or standard timeouts have been taken. 2 minutes can be authorized for a person to fix equipment and do what they need to, because the referee would determine that it would not be safe to continue with play until that has happened. If a person, for example, went to strike a ball and their paddle broke, the handle came off in their hand, they would be allowed to go and retrieve another paddle, and they would have up until 2 minutes to do so. And there's no limit on the number. Again, it's a discretionary point by the referee to determine that the situations are valid, and you take them one at a time. The person bends down to tie their shoelaces and snaps the shoelace off. They need to be able to go fix that. They split their shorts or whatever, they get time to go fix that. Right, section 3. So that's through one section. Where are we?
Sorry, Alan.
10:30, 11:30. Yes, go ahead.
What about a wet t-shirt? Somebody's sweating so much that it's making the court dangerous.
Well, if it's making the court dangerous, then that's going to have to be fixed. You can have a referee timeout, ask them to towel off. And if they have a spare shirt, fine. But yeah, that's not one that you're normally going to see and have to deal with. But yeah, you could.
Yeah,
again,
indoors when you sweat on the court, it makes puddles.
Yeah, referee discretion. You want to make sure that the players are playing and it is safe to play. So that's your discretion, and you have to deal with it and get them to fix it.
Alan, if
Yeah.
a referee sees a situation where there's an equipment failure and the players aren't aware of it, what is his obligation? I'm thinking the player's shoe is untied and he doesn't know it.
I would, for safety of everybody, yeah, you're going to advise and stop play and allow them to fix that. Not during a rally, however, that's between rallies.
Do they get charged a timeout?
No, it's a referee timeout, and there's no logging of referee timeouts. You don't put that anywhere.
Thank you.
And even if they haven't used their timeouts and they've got a shoelace that's untied, you're not going to charge them with timeout. You're not going to give them a referee timeout or a tall either or equipment timeout. You're just going to simply have a referee timeout and allow them to fix it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Alan, you're on 93. How many more you got to go?
Oh, got to get to 160. So good point. Let's curtail some of the questions and go to chat, please. And I'm going to have to speed along here.
A number of people are going to exit at 12 o'clock.
Then that's up to them.
What are you guys doing next weekend?
Something different.
Alden, you're always good for the comments. All right, let's see how far we can get. Referees are empowered to issue technical warnings, and a technical warning typically precedes a technical foul, but not always. You can go straight to a technical foul depending on how flagrant the infraction was. A second technical warning in a match by either partner for any reason warrants a technical foul. So again, technicals are issued to a team. So if one person has got a technical warning and another person does the same thing, then they would have 2 technical warnings, which would equal a technical foul. So they would be at that point at the 2-strike threshold. And we'll explain strikes in a minute. Document the technical warning. So record the technical warning in the appropriate team's technical warning, technical foul box to the right of the timeout square. Record details on the back of the score sheet, just like the medical timeout. 2 technical warnings equals 1 technical foul. Referee may give a verbal warning regarding profanity once in a match to all players. So new for 2021 is a verbal warning. We've actually had verbal warnings previously. They might be for slow play or whatever was happening, but now we're sort of looking at that and saying, well, that could be deemed as coaching, and why are you giving them the benefit of a warning when you should maybe be giving them a technical warning and getting it on file. So again, now verbal warning is to be contained to profanity. So if the teams are out there and you're hearing a few words being dropped, not loudly, quietly, but you see them increasing and you know that you're going to have to issue a technical warning pretty quickly here, you just simply call all the players closer together and you would say, people, I'm going to give you all a verbal warning for profanity. The next one will be a technical warning. And that's it. All 4 players are warned, back to their corners, we play. And as soon as another one is dropped, then you have to issue a technical warning and go up the scale of discipline from there. So verbal warning example. So just here underneath the team's names, you would write in the left, just above where the final scores are going to go, you would just put in verbal warning, game 1 at 6-4-1. And it really, again, was to everybody on the court. So you don't have to make it. All we know is that Jim and Mary Smith were serving at the time. The technical warning was issued at 6-4-1 because it's written right side up on their side of the score sheet. So a technical warning now is issued at the 6-4-1, I guess. And so we would put in technical warning in this box against Jim and Mary Smith, and the technical warning, game number 1 at 6-4-1 for coaching. Okay, that's all we need to know. 2 technical warnings equals a technical foul. And so when we're issuing a technical foul, we're going to take away a point now, right? So this is new for 2021. We used to add a point to the non-offending team score, which made them have to make sure they were properly aligned to either serve or receive. And that put the onus on them and put them in jeopardy of creating the next fault. So to get away from that and a couple of other reasons, they decided what they would do is take a point away from the offending team. So now that's why you need pencils with erasers on them when you go out there, because you're going to be using it maybe a little bit more. And you have to rub out the diagonal slash of the last score made. And of course, now this whole thing is a bit different based on whether it's the serving team or the receiving team. Right? So in this case, we're talking about the serving team because it's the right way up. So we're erasing it out and we're putting in the technical foul on the 6th point so that we know the 7th was taken away, and we put in technical foul and we write that over here and we say game number 1 at 7-10-1 for coaching a second one. And therefore we know that they had 7 points, and this game may well end at 11-6 now. And so we would wonder, well, how did we have 7-10? Because we took 1 point away. Okay. Technical fouls. Now, this is more severe situations. Now, I think everybody probably received the charts that I sent around this morning to the organizers of your provinces, and hopefully you all have them. You can look at that in a minute, but we're just going to go through this right now. So technical fouls are issued for aggressively or recklessly throwing the paddles. Okay, so again, this is a bit of an issue that we all have. 186 certified referees and a whole bunch of other referees that are out there trying to do all the same standard thing. So how Al looks at aggressively and recklessly throwing a paddle is maybe a little bit different than Jim Gilpin or Walter or whoever else. We all have different thresholds. So we're trying to make it a little bit more standard and a little bit more understandable of when and consistently issuing technicals. So if it's aggressively and recklessly throwing it, then they get a technical foul. If they're hitting a person with a ball not in play, then it would be a technical. Now, again, that's probably not intentionally hitting them with it, where inadvertently they strike a ball and it hits the person. We had that at nationals where well, actually, I guess it happened in tennis too, where the ball was hit at the lines person, and that person was gone in that case. And here, we're just giving them a foul, technical foul. It's extreme objectionable language. So they drop the F-bomb. It's loud enough. Everybody hears it. You're not going to give them a verbal warning. You're not going to give them a technical warning. You're going to go straight to a technical foul for an extreme objectionable language usage that, that shouldn't be part of the game. Threats or challenges made to any individual. Okay. Losing referee challenges when no timeouts are available. Okay, so here's a little bit of a lesser one that now equates to a technical foul. So you've made a determination on the court, and the referee or the player says, I don't believe that, ref. Can you call the tournament director? And the tournament director comes, and they bring the rule book, and they look up what's in question, and Lord and behold, the player finds out that the referee was correct, and therefore we're going to have to take a timeout away from them, or when no timeout is available, they get the technical foul, right? Extreme unsportsmanlike behavior. So if they're behaving in a manner that isn't acceptable at all, again, it's not a technical warning, it's a technical foul. After technical foul has been issued, you're going to deduct 1 point from the offending team score. You erase the last point that we did and adjust the side outline. Now you don't need to adjust the side outline and put a new side outline, the vertical line that goes down there, if they are the serving team. You would just simply allow them to serve. Now they went from 7 back to 6. Let's make sure we all understand there is no loss of serve. There's no side out change, nothing else that happens. They're issued a technical foul, point is taken away, but the same server would continue serving if it was the serving team. No, so there's no double jeopardy here. They don't lose the point and get a technical. Therefore, if they're the serving team, no need to put in a end of side line. We just continue on. Record technical foul in the appropriate boxes, as we showed, and record the details. Right? We were there. 1 point awarded to the non-offending team. So in this particular case, and this is the only if and when the offending team has 0, the non-offending team then is awarded a point, and therefore we would simply put the TF in the next box from their score. If they are not the serving team, we're going to put down that vertical line that shows an end side out, so that when we come back into serve, we now know that it is the even person who's going to be serving, not the odd person. And when that rally continues, that team has to switch sides. All right. You always, depending on the score dictates where the people are standing, and whether it's as a result of winning a rally or being awarded a point through a technical, the teams must line up accordingly in the appropriate boxes, whether they're the server or the receiver. You can't coach on that. All you can do is simply state a technical warning has been issued. I've subtracted 1 point from the serving team. The score is, and then I would say players are ready, 15 seconds. And then when time is in, call time, I call the score, and they had better switched. Otherwise, if they haven't switched, then it's going to be a fault as soon as that paddle hits the ball.
Alan, it's Gaston from Halifax. Just so when I'm looking at that score sheet, it would be Susan that would be serving from the uneven side, right? Susan Brown.
I'm trying to follow it now. So they could have been serving, Mary Smith could have been serving here because they, the infraction happened to the other team, right?
Yeah.
The infraction was given over here. So we're given a point to the non-offending team, and there's nothing saying that they weren't serving at the time of the infraction. nothing telling you whether they were serving or receiving. So well, we know where they were receiving because the numbered peg is right here. So we know this team was serving at the time of the infraction.
Jim was serving.
Jim is serving.
So Jim was serving, and then but that Mary will get a chance to serve, even though a point was given to the opposing team.
No. Jim was serving at he came in at 5. Okay, because here's our site outline. When this team finished their serving and we flipped it around to put this team on top, our number pad is pointing to the left in this direction and Mary and Jim Smith are to our left. We know that the score was 5 and Jim Smith is going to be the first server and he's still serving and he's made 2 points. Before the end of rally 7 or during rally 8, whatever, or I guess at the end of, before starting the next rally, one of the Browns did something and technical foul was issued and Jim is serving now at 8. So Jim simply has to go from the where his normal base would be he would have been in the left-hand court. He is now going to be serving. Yes, he's going to be serving from the left-hand court, and Mary's going to be on our band is going to be in the right-hand court with the band because the score is even, right? But she's not serving. Jim is, so he's where he should be in the left-hand court. Okay.
I guess it's just a little confusing because the right side up and upside down, whatever. So because the technical foul was written on the Smith side of things because they were in possession of the ball serving.
No. Technical foul's written on the Browns.
I'll do it, Alden, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So yeah, because the Browns did something and the Browns have 0, can't take a point away from the Browns, which is the new rule that we're taking points away from the offending team. But in this particular case, they got 0. So the Smiths have to be awarded a point. So they're awarded a point at the time Jim Smith is serving. So Jim simply goes from the right-hand court where he was about to serve at 7. And he's going to go from the left-hand court when he was serving at 7. He's going to go, no, I was right. He's going to the right-hand court to serve at 8 because he's the odd player. No, I'm wrong. Sorry. I'm going to mess you all up. Jim Smith is serving from the left-hand court when the score is even because he's the non-banded player. Right? So you're right. I mean, it is confusing. You have to get it down. You have to follow the band. And what's wrong here is even what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to explain where Jim is standing as the non-banded player. I shouldn't be. I've stressed over and over that we're not interested where Jim is standing. Follow the band. Where's Mary? The score is 8. Mary's on the right. By default, Jim's got to be on the left. And if you continually look at it that way, life is much easier. Follow the band according to the score. And if it's the non-banded person that's serving, they're just in the opposite side of the court.
I think Gaston was getting confused because the reason for the technical foul was written beside the Smiths, but that's on the back of the score sheet.
That's on the back of the sheet. That's right. Yeah, we simply flip that thing up and over. All right, let's go on. We've got a lot to cover.
Al, just before we go on, if Jim did serve again and he made a point, do you skip over putting the line through the TF and just go to the next point?
The line over it, you mean a diagonal slash?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no diagonal because we just awarded a point. So it was not necessarily, yes, you just skip over it and go to the next one and put in the appropriate slash, which would be the same as this one here if you got another point on the 9th box. You would just go like that. Right, good. After awarding, clearly advise the teams that the point has been deducted or added from their scores, and they must, so that they're aware that the score has changed and they should know. You can't tell them, I've changed the score, you need to change position. No, you can't say that. That's coaching. So you can't say that. You just simply want to be very open and say, a point was deducted, a point was added, the score now is. You're not calling the score now is whatever. Say it, and they move to position 15 seconds, and then at 0, you announce, we'll resume play, and you call the score. After a team has been issued one technical foul, any subsequent technical warning will result in a game forfeiture. That equals 3 strikes. So a team has got a technical foul, that's 2 strikes. A technical warning is 1 strike. Technical foul is 2 strikes. So if they've had a technical foul followed by a technical warning followed by a technical foul, 3 strikes, game format, forfeit, I should say, and we go on, we say forfeiture. We go on to the second game. You have 1 minute or 2 minutes between games. We go 2 minutes and we start the next game in that series. 2 technical fouls all automatically forfeits a match. That's equivalent to 4 strikes. So 2 technical fouls issued to a team and the match is over. Here's the slide that you have in front of you. I made a slight change from what you're actually seeing. One of our other certified referees suggested a couple of little changes, and I made that. Nothing major. It was simply putting in up here at match forfeiture, referee and tournament director. You'll notice on yours is there, and under ejection it says TD, and under expulsion it says TD as well. Those can only be issued by those respective people. So all I'm trying to do by this one is it's the disciplinary action is getting a little bit bigger than it ever was. This sort of encapsulates it and allows you to follow it, I think, giving you a sense of where we're going. So a verbal warning, technical warnings and the reasons for them, technical fouls right there, 13G2 in your referee's rule book. That's what this is. It goes down through 13G2, all the different things and rationale for issuing a technical foul directly. Over here, now we're saying game forfeiture is 1 technical assessed and any technical fouls listed in 13G2, which are red and you're seeing here in italics. And there's other reasons. Now, we never touched on this, and I guess we need to just say it. So players that fail to report to a match 10 minutes after the match is called on the PA and you're got your stopwatch going, and they should be there within 5 minutes. We're giving them 5 minutes further grace. And it doesn't matter what the local tournament director has said. They can't change the USAPA rule in this one. They don't have the authority. Game forfeitures cannot be changed. The person has got 10 minutes to make the match before the match can be forfeited. So we wait the 10 minutes. If they don't show, you give a game forfeit or a match forfeit in this case. If that match is 1 to 15 or 1 game to 21, obviously that game forfeit then becomes a match forfeit by default because they failed to be there.
Yeah, this might be a good point to say, at what point does the referee have charge of the situation from and to? Players are not on the court or they're on the court. What can the person do if the games and matches are over, or between games, or the match is over? What infractions and penalties can a referee apply in those kind of between game situations or after games?
Yeah. Okay. So at what point can you continue to deliver? That's a good question. I got to think here, and that is that when the players arrive at the court, until the score is called, then that's the beginning. The ball is alive, and we can start calling any of the situations. After the match is over And I'm trying to think of the point in time, Walter, and that's a good one. I believe it's when you go game, match, point, game, match, and announce the score, then you can't be issuing any technicals after that point. Marcia, you just want to check me on that one? Marcia's
Yes,
baking cookies.
I'm still here.
Oh, I
I'm
thought
sorry,
you were maybe baking cookies.
No, I just have to get my my mute off of there. Okay, yes, you are correct. Technical warnings, technical fouls can be issued anytime between the time the players get to the court until the match is completed at point game match. Now, if something happens, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to get you to confirm, though, at what point in time when they arrive at the court, what does the referee have to call the score, or does he have to have provided the briefing? There must be a point in time there that I'm not coming up with.
Okay, from the time that they report that they arrive at the court. Okay, once the match has been called, then the match is on. So once they get to the court, anytime after that, until you call point game match.
Okay, I'm not recalling that exact words in my my head, so that's great. I'm glad you're here to do that.
It's in the handbook.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
5-2.
After the match has been terminated and there gets to be a kerfuffle of some sort, then the referee would have to refer that to the tournament director, I am assuming.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I had that situation where I finished a match, and then the fellow who actually had started the kerfuffle was late to the match, and we started right away without giving him any warm up. He was there past the 5 minutes, but before the 10 minutes. So no warm up. And then he went at the other team saying, I let you do this. And he got quite belligerent. I wasn't able to issue anything because I had called game point match, and I'm walking away and he starts attacking her. Probably should have noted it though and told the tournament director the situation.
I have a question about that. Now that if we saw after the game wrong server position, we can do the correction till the score sheet is at the table of tournament director or so. Anyway, the table.
That's correct, Isabel. That's right.
So if when you are walking to the table, and you said, oh, I made a mistake, I should correct that, and the players begin to argue a lot with you because they are not very happy of that. So that means that you cannot give them a warning or foul because it is after the match. So
well, that's an interesting twist to it, but you're going back and you're restarting that rally. If you noticed yourself that there was a wrong server, wrong receiver, and there's a reason that that game was not properly concluded, then we're reopening the game and we're going to restart it. So anything else that happens, you can issue faults and you can issue technicals, yes.
Okay, for this exception we can make, because I'm sure there will be a lot of insatisfaction if we have to do that.
I think, you know, the rule has been made for that because obviously it might have happened once, but that's not going to happen very often, and it's not going to be the norm.
Hope so. Thank you.
I think though that it is important to understand because I've seen it happen before. It's important for you to know the points in time when you can award things and when you can't, because it can be outside your jurisdiction. And as soon as you go game or point, game and match, then you're concluded. Your official responsibilities with those player ends as far as being able to issue technicals. But as we point out, if somebody does something that is not becoming, then you take their name to the tournament director and advise them of the situation. Okay, say that this is the scenario. It happened after I concluded, and this is what he did. They did whatever, and then the tournament director will probably call them up and have a little word with them and make a determination. It's solely in his hands at that point.
Okay, one more. between matches, I award a TW, and that's okay. Assuming there's no other TWs awarded so far, but if it's a TF that I need to award,
Yep,
obviously somebody gets a point to start the next game.
that's correct. Okay, so let's go through that. Walter brought up the scenario. So in between games 1 and 2, we just gain point and game. Got 1 minute or 2 minutes before the next game, and the person goes past the other person and calls them a name and swears at them or whatever, and you go, that's a technical foul, and you make the annotations on the score sheet. And what you're doing now, since the other team has got 0, you can't take a point away from them to start the match. Therefore, we have to award a point to the non-offending team. And now the person with the band, the score, you're going to announce, we're going to start this match. The score is 1-0-2. So that is fair warning to them that now they have 1 point. So that starting server for the second game needs to be serving from the 1 position, which would be the left-hand court. So our circled player starting the second game at 1 is serving from the left-hand court. And you do your technical foul documentation on the score sheet accordingly. Good point, Walter. Thank you. Let's carry on here. Where am I? How did I get here? Oh, there I am. Okay. So again, the chart is for your use, and just to sort of understand the progression of discipline all the way up to expulsion. And expulsion is new this year, where the tournament director can expel somebody from the tournament venue because of extremely unbecoming behavior. That's their responsibility. Okay, bleeding and blood on the court. I think we probably already dealt with that because we had a nice question on that. And referee timeout not recorded on the score sheet, and we just deal with the problem, stopping the blood and cleaning up the blood before play is allowed to continue. Non-volley zone violations. Again, how many times have I said it? You're probably your #1 responsibility. Includes the player's momentum, right? So that's what we're following. Momentum ends when the player regains balance and control of their motion or stops moving towards the no volley zone. And if the player is wearing, carrying, or touching the non-volley zone, call fault immediately. After being in the non-volley zone, a player cannot legally volley a ball until both feet have contacted the playing surface outside of the no volley zone. Pushing off from the no volley zone to make a volley is a violation. When crossing through the no volley zone with both feet must contact the playing surface outside the non-volley zone before a player can legally volley the ball. So in other words, you can run through the no volley zone, touching it with 1 foot or both feet, as long as you do not make contact with that ball until both feet have been established outside of the court and on the playing surface out there. Okay? A player nor their equipment can ever legally touch the net post, or the opponent's court surface while the ball is in play. So the important thing there, while the ball is in play. And that one, again, is a very hard determination for a referee to make, because you're watching feet. And now that person continues to move and their paddle touches the net post. It's not an automatic fault. If the ball had bounced twice and touched the playing surface the second time, it's a dead ball situation and it's not a fault. So that's, again, a very difficult one for a referee to do. It's a little bit more ammunition for those people who believe in the 2 referee setup, where one referee is watching one thing, the other referee is watching the other. And you got 2 sets of eyes out there on it. But if you're lucky enough to be doing a medal match and you have line judges, they're part of the officiating team, you can ask them what they saw in the sequence of events, how it's happening, and go back and make a determination from that point. Crossing the plane of the net is not okay when attempting to hit missed balls. So you attempt to make an Ernie. You jump over there. You make the swing. You don't make contact with the ball, and your piece of your clothing, your feet, your paddle goes beyond the plane of the net. It's a fault. Now, do we all understand what we're talking about, the plane of the net being three-dimensional, where it's got height, right? So as soon as you break that imaginary line and you just go over it just by a fraction or more, then it's a fault. If a foot or a toe extends beneath the net onto the opponent's court, it's a fault. So those people that go right up to get a ball that has just been dinked over, the ball may have hung up on the top of the net and it just rolls over. You've got to be down there leaning forward, watching to make sure that the paddle does not hit the net at the time they're making it. The other thing to look for is, where are their feet? Did their feet break the plane of the net underneath and extend onto the other person's court? Again, all this is happening quickly, and you have to have your wits about you, and you have to be thinking of these things that could happen so that you're making sure they did not happen. Crossing the plane of the net is not a fault on any time of follow through of a legal hit, including Ernie. So it doesn't matter if it's an Ernie or not. Ernie's is spelt wrong. There's no I in Ernie. So if you go and make an Ernie, which is jumping over the non-volley zone and smacking that ball back to the opponent's court, as long as you're making contact initially with the ball on your side of the net, and you jump over that boundary line and you land outside with both feet, and you haven't taken off from being in an illegal position, you are in your court, then that's a legal hit. That's no problem at all. When chasing a bounce ball spinning back over the net, okay, you're allowed to cross the plane of the net in this occasion only. 11I1. Yes, players can break the net plane prior to hitting the ball for this reason. So if a ball has enough backspin to jump back over the net from your side and you haven't made contact with it on your side, you may reach over the net. You may smack the ball. You can reach under the net, they now say. I haven't seen this one done yet, but where the nets are off the ground, as long as the player reaches their paddle under the net without touching the net, without touching the other player's court, they can extend their paddle out there and allow that spinning ball to come back down over the net, hit the paddle, and remove their paddle so that it falls in the ground. I want to see that one. I don't know why they put that in there. It must have happened. That's usually why they put it in, because some smart young player has been able to do it. And so we'll see. The other one, of course, that I had great question with was the rules used to say, and reach around the net post. You're allowed to reach around the net post. You're not only allowed to reach around the net post, you're allowed, like you always were, but they had to change the wording because it sounded like you couldn't go on to the other person's playing surface and their side of the end of the court to hit the ball back on inside. You can do that. So you can break the plane of the net on a ball that's bounced back over and go 5 feet into the other person's playing surface, not their court, to strike a ball that has not yet hit the court for a second time. Any questions on that? Boy, I'm getting stone cold faces out there.
Oh, I got a question for you.
Okay.
At risk of displaying my ignorance, what's Ernie?
Well, an Ernie is where you, just as I sort of described, you're standing in your end of the court and side of the court, and the ball is going to be dinked back over, straight back at you, and it goes a little high. So what you do is you jump over the corner of the non-volley zone towards the net post. And while the ball is just coming over to your side of the net, you smack the ball back at the player who hit it. or anywhere in the court for that matter. All right, but it's legal only if you haven't taken off from being in an illegal position with your toe on the non-volley zone. And as long as you hit it in the air and land with both feet outside of the court, not touching any of the lines, that's a legal shot. And that's an early. Okay? Can't remember Ernie's last name, but Ernie was the guy that first did it.
Hi, I had a question. So a lawyer actually asked me this question. So if you do say I did a shot and it went over the net and it had the backspin and it spun back into my net, back into my court, and they never hit it. So I know that if I let the ball hit my side of the court, then that would be my point or my team's point, right? Is that
right? That's correct so far, yeah.
Okay, so the question is, so in that situation, so the ball bounces, spins back, it's about to hit on my court, but if I catch the ball, then I assume that that's a fault on my side, correct?
Absolutely, it would be. You're stopping play during a rally, so yeah, it would be a fault.
Yeah, so a lawyer asked me this question and I gave the same answer you did. Thank you.
Okay. So what we're going to do here on this slide, it builds a scenario. We're going through them pretty quickly because I'm hoping you're all understanding where the feet have to be and when you're taking off, but that's what this is built to do. So foot in and out. Okay, so we're talking about a foot that is placed into the non-volley zone and then comes back out prior to hitting the ball.
Does your screen look normal, Al? Mine doesn't.
Mine doesn't either. I'm getting all kinds of different little hit now.
Something wrong with the slide.
Yeah, I'm just going to build it here to its conclusion by clicking through. This is supposed to be sort of an animated thing you discuss as you go. Don't know where it's going. Nope. I think we discussed all the scenarios of the jumping over and where the feet have to be. And that's what's important here. I'm just having to go through clicking one thing at a time here. All right. So distractions. Okay, so when is it a distraction? When does the referee call a distraction? What happens if a player appeals for a distraction? So you declare a fault if a player deliberately creates a distraction when an opponent is about to strike the ball. For example, waving the paddle or the arms before somebody is serving. You know, the receiving partner's up there at the net, right, standing there, and they start waving their paddle to distract the server. Making loud noises or yelling at the point in time when the opponent is about to strike the ball. Those are illegal distractions, and they should be called immediately by the referee. If the referee didn't call it and is thinking about it and they're so blown away, and the players turn around and say, "Ref, wasn't that a distraction?" The referee can rule it a fault after the fact, but only if they determine it affected the outcome of the rally. So if the distraction had occurred, they're standing there, they're waving their paddle, and the server serves, and the ball is returned, and the rally ensues, the team that then calls for a distraction, that's too late. The distraction did not affect the outcome of the rally, had no causative factor. Whereas opposed to if the person's waving their hand, the person serves the ball, and they serve it into the net, they can say, "Oh, wasn't that a distraction, ref?" And you would say, "Yes, that was a distraction. That could have interfered with your serve, and the reason why your serve is a fault," and award a distraction based on that. So no problem. But again, the referee really should be on top of that. And as soon as they're seeing a distraction being created on the court, you would call it. So if you're in a 20 dinking rally of 20 dinks or more, and every time that person is about, the opponent is about to hit it, the other team says, "Jack, move. Jack, do this," just as they're about to hit it, then that's a distraction. So it's a very difficult one, and one you need to be on top of and call.
So you'd call that right away. You don't have to wait for a dead ball then.
Absolutely.
Correct, Alan?
No, no, you just call it right away. Distraction, point, second server. And again, when you're calling these things, you call them nice and loudly, nice and emphatically, and you follow it up by point, second server, side out, whatever is necessary, so that they know we're just continuing the play here, move into position. We're not going to talk about this. They want to talk about it and they start pushing you for it, and an explanation, you can call them together and say, look, that was a distraction. You did this. I'm not going to stand for it. That person is allowed to hit the ball without you making any comment at the time they're about to hit it.
So is that recorded as a technical fault?
No, that is a fault. And you can issue a technical if it continues, where a person is continuing to do something due to unsportsmanlike behavior. But this is a fault, and the consequences of the fault are loss of serve, loss of point, or wherever they were in the service rotation. So they lose their serve, or if the other team was serving, then the other team is awarded an immediate point. Forfeits. Player is not ready to play within 10 minutes of the match when announced the game format. So we need to change the order here and bring this more in line with our technicals that we were talking about. So after 10 minutes, when a match has been announced, it's a game forfeiture, which we talked about. If they're not ready after 15 minutes, if they don't appear at the courts, now this is a new one, that now is equivalent to a match forfeiture. A player or team.
Can I get a quick question in there?
Go ahead.
It's about the distractions.
Okay, go ahead.
A lot of times when we're playing pickleball here and somebody goes ahead and lobs the ball to somebody who can really smash the ball good. And the team that lobbed the ball says, oh, is that considered a distraction to the person who's going to make the return shot?
Yeah, I mean, you see that a lot in certainly, non-tournament play. It's only a distraction if it's done at the precise moment when the other player is about to strike the ball and it affects his play. If it doesn't affect his play, then it's not a distraction. But you're going to call that a distraction if he's about to hit it and is right there and the person, oh no, and that happens in a tournament, you're refereeing, you're bound to call that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
A player or a team receiving one technical warning and one technical foul in a match. It's 3 strikes. We already did this. Player may choose retirement. All right, so retirement is new. We're putting a new connotation on that, and the match will be awarded to the opponents. So they're retiring. So they do that voluntarily, and the other team is awarded the match. Other behaviors that result in immediate match forfeit are making deliberate and aggressive physical contact with the player, striking or throwing a paddle or a ball that endangers a person or a property, a player refusing to wear a designated starting server identification band. If during a match a player is discovered to be playing with a paddle that is not approved. Those are all match forfeiture calls. So on a forfeiture, we've got something that's happened here in between games 1 and 2 by the looks of it, because there's no scores in the second game, and we have scored out the remaining unused scores in the first game, and it looks like a technical foul is being issued to Jim and Mary Smith. That Mary, I tell you, she's a bit of a troublemaker. So she gets a TF there. And at the bottom, there's our explanation, which is now, as we say, we just lift up the sheet and put it on the back. Smith's game 1, 992, aggressive paddle throwing. Oh, Mary, bad. So game forfeit for her. Unruly players. So as soon as you have an unruly player, you got to go, we want to lower the temperature here. We don't want to add to the temperature by being more volatile than they are or being louder than they are. We want to bring it down. So keep an open mind, understand their position, the point that they're trying to make. Meet the players at your center court in your office away from the spectators. If you think that the situation warrants it and you're right, you have the ability to issue a technical warning or a technical foul based on the severity of what has happened and transpired out there. If they continue to argue with you, if it wasn't a technical to begin with, but they're going to argue with you to the point of being unreasonable, you then are they're forcing your hand to issue a technical. Now, I've had a situation like this, and I sort of looked at it afterwards and went, did I do the best job I could have there? And because I had a person who was absolutely irate, and Walter was there, actually, he was the tournament director. And I issued a technical foul right away for their unsportsmanlike behavior and excessively arguing with the referee. And he was not listening to me. He was past the point of being rational. And I just thought, well, the best I can do is, issue a technical warning, technical foul now. And that still didn't stop him. He wanted to go on. Afterwards, I thought, well, you know what I should have done in this situation? They're playing doubles. Don't talk to the individual that is having the meltdown. Talk to his partner and turn to them and say, listen, you got 15 seconds to get your partner under control, or I'm going to move from the technical warning I've already issued him to a technical foul. You deal with it, 15 seconds. And go back. If he doesn't calm down, then you issue your technical foul. I'm only saying that to use it as an example. You again want to mediate this situation. You want to have cooler heads prevail. You don't want to escalate discipline if you don't have to. It's only there as a tool to be used in punishment in extreme situations or for actions which have happened. If you can intervene and lower the temperature, you're really doing your job. You're doing a really good job. You're allowing play to continue. Everything's happened. That's great. So just think about that and how you can diffuse situations.
So how did that end up, Al?
I was called to go play, and you went and refereed.
You called me over and wussied out.
No, I was called to play. I was wanting to stay and issue my technical foul, damn it. Anyway, tournament director has the option to eject from the tournament or expel from the tournament grounds. So those are now new options available to tournament directors for handling really, really extreme cases. Hearing impaired players. We're seeing this happen, having a few out there with people with different disabilities. And of course, what we're saying to the referees is that we are trying to bend and make the game amiable for everybody and playable by everybody. And so do what you can to help those individuals get through that game or that match. Accommodate requests and announce the score extra loudly. Be sensitive and tolerant for players asking to repeat the score. Look towards the impaired player when announcing the score. So you want to look right at them. Enunciate extra clearly, and consider using extended fingers if necessary. So what I do is I simply go 4, 3, 2, and let up the fingers for 2 or 1, so that they know I've called the score. They may not have heard the whole score, but at least they know that I have called the score and I'm giving the number of the server, and that they're free now to serve the ball and make contact with it. Wheelchair rules. The chair is considered part of the player's body. So if the ball touches it before the player is able to hit it or after the player hits it, then it would be a fault. Balls may double bounce, including out of the court on the second bounce. So they're allowed to bounce twice. They got one more bounce to get there than standard players. Only the larger rear wheels will cause a no volley zone infraction. So again, their smaller front wheels are allowed to go into the no volley zone, whereas as soon as that back wheel touches on that arc and that curve, so you have to make sure that that arc and curve makes contact with that non-volley zone line before it's actually called. So that wheel can extend well over, if you're looking sideways, well over the non-volley zone, but the actual contact is what we're looking for the moment that the rubber of the wheel hits the white painted line. That's when the fault occurs.
Sorry, Alan, question on the ball bouncing. In the other, when you're allowed to drop the ball, it can bounce as many times. So why in a wheelchair are you limited to only 2 bounces?
When we're talking serve and we're talking standard play here. So this is in a normal rally. We're in standard play. After the ball bounces once, if it bounces twice, then it would be a fault. When you have wheelchair players, you're looking for that third bounce before it's actually a dead ball situation and a fault has occurred. Clear?
So you're saying even on the new serving, when you drop the ball, it can only bounce twice then? Sorry.
No, we're not talking about serve. We're talking about normal rally situations.
Oh, sorry. Just misread. Thanks.
Okay, good. You got it. Right, so now we're just going to do a quick review of some of the rules, and I think we've already covered most of them, so this should go pretty quickly. Change of rules for 2021. The serve is defined as the initial strike of the ball to start the rally. And again, most importantly, service lets are no more. So the ball can touch the net as long as the ball does not hit the non-volley zone or land in the non-volley zone or touch the opponent's non-volley zone line. Then that ball is a good ball and must be played back for the return server to continue with the rally. If the served ball hits the net and falls into the non-volley zone, fault. If it hits the net and touches, doesn't quite clear the non-volley zone line and hits that line before hitting the court, then it is a fault also. But there are no lets. And the challenge, of course, will be to all experienced referees not to call lets as they happen, because it's so quick. You go net, let, after it's hit the ground. Now you're not saying anything. Service partner may call the score, but shall not change during the game. Okay, well, that's a non-officiated play. All right, so we're not really too interested in that as referees, but just so you know that the rule was changed, that if you have somebody who's got a very quiet voice or no voice at all, their partner is allowed in non-officiated play to call the score, but they must do it for the entire match or entire game.
Al?
Yep.
I have a question. That first bullet, I'm not, my distaste for it, but I won't go into that, but that's not a new rule in 2021. That's the same rule as 2020.
Where did I lose it there? Oops. Timing rules change for the amount of serve. Nope, not there. Where were we, Alden?
The very first sheet in the 2021 rules. So you'd be up. I can't tell you the number, but before that. Wait, no. Okay, next slide. Right. That first bullet's not true.
Defined as the initial strike of the ball to start the rally.
That's
definition. I'd have
the
to
definition I don't like, but that's a different discussion. But that was all a rule in 2020, because you and I talked about that last August.
Okay, well, it's just on the slide, and so I'm just repeating it as it is there.
Yeah.
So I'll have a look at that and clear that up if it's not a 2021 rule change.
It isn't.
Okay. Serve. So we didn't talk about a couple of things here on the optional provisional serve. We talked about it dropping without propelling it, unaided height. Yep. We didn't talk about the sling serve is allowed. So you hear this, I've heard it called the sling serve, the COVID serve, because now what we're saying is that people are allowed, if they don't want to touch the ball with their hand, they may lift the ball up with the paddle, scoop it up with the paddle, hold it in the paddle, toss it in the air, and hit that ball before it bounces, and all your standard rules apply regarding that serve. So that's the sling serve, and it's the same rules as the standard serve. So they're allowed to do that. You lift and raise it with the thing. You're also, for the provisional drop serve, allowed again, if you don't want to touch it with your non-paddle hand, get that ball onto your paddle, lift it up to whatever height you like, tilt the paddle slightly so the ball rolls off, and allow the ball to bounce and serve the ball.
A question on the sling serve.
Yep.
When do you call the score when you're using a sling serve?
Well, you're talking about officiated play or non-officiated play?
Let's start with non-officiated play.
Well, we're not too interested in that being a bunch of referees, but just for your edification for a player, then what you would do is you would call the score like you always do. The score must precede the striking of the ball to make a serve. That's the rule in pickleball. What you're doing when you're calling the score is you're advising the other team that you're about to serve, and you're giving them an opportunity to question the score since you're calling it out. And if you call it wrong, that's why now they have up until that third shot to make a question about the called score without penalty if it was called incorrectly. So I get this a lot. I mean, I've seen more players going to the tennis way of doing things, and they're serving without calling the score. And I just simply catch the ball, throw it back at them and say, I wasn't ready, please call the score.
In a refereed game, how do you know when to call the score when a server is using the sling serve?
Well, why wouldn't you know when to call the score?
Well, he's just scooping up the ball and
So as long as they're in possession of the ball, they're in the approximate position. I've checked the receivers. The receivers are both in position. I checked the serving team. I'm checking his partner. He's in position. I look at the server. He's got the ball. I don't care where it is. I know that the amount of time has been given is about correct. I'm expecting them to be ready to go. Call the score. He's got 10 seconds to do whatever he wants with that ball. Sling it, throw it, drop it, release it.
Okay, thank you.
So there shouldn't be a problem there. The ball is dead until the referee starts calling the score. So no penalty for serving the ball before the referee starts calling the score. Okay? So they can serve the ball, and that's not a fault if you haven't started to say 4, 3, 2. If you get the F out and they hit the ball, it's a fault. So timing again becomes very quickly, and that's why it's so important. After you've done all and you're about to call the score, your eyes and attention are fully on the server, but your ears are open for the receiving team to make any statement or call. And now we're watching our point in times.
But I don't, excuse me, it's Jim here. I didn't think you could serve the ball before you'd called the score.
Well, it doesn't count if you do, but it's not a fault now because the ball is in a dead situation. And that's the point we want to make, that the ball is dead and there are no faults can be called by the referee when the ball is dead and not alive, with one exception. Anybody tell me what that is? What faults can you call when the ball is not alive? The ball is dead.
Technical fault.
Volley zone.
Let's go to the person who said something about volley zone.
Volley zone fault.
Absolutely. No volley zone
No
violations.
volley zone, right.
No volley zone violations can be called when the ball is dead. Okay, that's the only fault. So all other faults that you would think of calling are not to be called when you have not started calling the score, because that's now the new point in time where faults can be called. Okay.
Okay, but that person who served before you called the score hasn't actually served.
That's right. So you simply call time, ask for the ball to come back, and I'll recall the score, or I'll call the score if you don't mind before you serve.
Thank you.
Okay. Any player can ask for confirmation of the score, the correct player, receiver position. If the score has been called, announce time, step forward with the arms raised, answer the question, step back, lower the arms, and recall the score. So I think we've gone over that routine a couple of times now, but that's very important that you call time, get everything stopped. get everything organized, get them into the right position, and then announce, I'll recall the score. Everybody's good. Check the receivers, check the server, call the score. Coaching. Again, why are we doing this again? We did this already. Not going to talk to that. Players' team may choose retirement from the match. Tournament director, we already talked about that enough. And we've already gone through this one sufficiently well. You don't see anything there.
Al,
Yep.
the serve, so it's not the motion of the serve anymore. It's what, the contact of the ball?
Can I just get you to hold that? Because we've already dealt with that. We'll come back to it here at the end and allow me to get through here. Just sorry, I'm just going to have to look at some of these that we already have other slides on. And there we are, finished that section. Working with line judges. So I'll entertain that question now on the serve. What was it?
When you say a fault can't be charged to unless the serve is it the serve motion or the serve?
No. At what point in time? Where's my point in time chart? Did you get the point in time chart?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't get it on the slide here. So the can't call any faults until you have started to call the score. So as soon as you start calling the score, the ball is alive. So that's the important thing to know. The ball is dead. In a dead situation, no faults can be called until it's alive. So that's as soon as you start calling the score and the ball is dead again after it bounces twice, or you call any subsequent faults on the court. With the one exception, just to repeat, that any non-volley zone violation can be called after a dead ball, and anytime that person has not regained control of their momentum and they subsequently fall into the non-volley zone, it is a fault, regardless.
Okay, here's another one. If the guy's ready to serve, if someone's ready to serve after you've called the score, and someone jumps in and says, "Could you check the score?" And the guy's in his motion, and he's just ready to hit the ball, right?
I'm glad you asked the question. This needs to be clear to all prospective referees now. The answer is time. We throw our hands up. My wife just screamed in the kitchen, right? And you stop play before that. The momentum had started, but the paddle had not made contact with the ball. Therefore, you called time. The ball is now dead and no fault has occurred.
All right.
Okay, that's a great question. That's one that we all need to understand and thoroughly get in our heads. At what point in time does it become an issue that I have to deal with? The one that is more confusing is when you have called the score and the person has just hit the ball and a person in the court, well, ref, isn't the score wrong? You don't stop play. You allow the play to continue now. All right.
With the
I thought you said after the third, before the third shot drop, they can question the score.
They can question the score. You're right. So that was the wrong thing for me to speak. If they say anything else that wait a minute, hold it, then that's not good enough. All right. They're not questioning the score. They're trying to stop play because they might be in the wrong position. That's a fault. You're right. They have up until that third shot to question the score and say, ref, is that score correct? They can stop play. And it's not a fault if the score was called incorrectly. However, it is a fault if the score was called correctly. Doesn't matter if the third shot has been made or not. If they stop play after the announcement of the score and the referee did not make an error, then it's a fault. That's why if you're a player, I would never ever stop play regardless of before the third shot or not. Deal with it after the rally. What's the sense of stopping it beforehand where you might be creating a fault? Deal with it after. Okay.
Can I ask one more question now for clarification?
I don't know. What's your name?
Sorry, it's Terry. You had mentioned it's no fault if you serve before the referee starts calling the scores because the ball is considered dead.
Right?
Okay, just making sure. And then then it's called. Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Yeah, these are not easy to get in the head and to understand. All right, Walter, any questions on chat?
No, I think we've covered most of them. Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's quickly just look at line judges because, of course, working with line judges is very unique and an important part if you're going for certification or even going to be a rated referee. You need to be able to work with them. They add a different element of confusion out there, and it's not easy because they come to you with varying experiences and various abilities, and you are trying to get them to work the way you would like to so that they form part of the officiating team. So I find it quite distracting, and that's why I am so thrilled that USAPA is moving towards a certified referee, a certified line judge program where the people are going to have to be trained, they're going to have to be certified before they can go out and do official matches. And then that officiating team is going to be working at a different level. And we shouldn't have all the problems that we have experienced before, or some of the problems that we've experienced before. So again, I've already said it, line judges are part of the officiating team. All right, so now you're going out as the referee, you're responsible for everything that happens on that court, and you now have either 4 or 6 other sets of eyes to deal with issues depending on the format of line judges we put out there, 4 or 6. The 6 format, just so that you know, would mean that you would have the sidelines are broken into ends of the court. So we would have a end line judge for each side and each end of the court. So there would be 4 there, and then plus your 2 baseline line judges. They can do more than just call their lines and call faults on their lines. They're expected to do more. They are a referee's second set of eyes and ears on the court, and the referee is responsible for briefing the line judges before the match. If you get the certified program, that will be severely reduced. Line judges must know the rules. They must remain fully attentive at all times on the play on the court. And that's easier said than done when they're sitting outside the court and they have spectators sitting beside them wanting to chat or whatever. And that's why you'll see at a lot of tournaments, they're wearing vests. They're trying to say, don't bother me. Make out calls on assigned lines, okay, promptly. Call foot faults on the baseline that they're assigned to. They should be signaling the wrong server, wrong receiver, or player out of position, coaching and other violations. And that's in red because that's new for 2021. And there's actually a couple of new signals being introduced in the rule book for those, or in the line judge handbook. Provide opinion when asked by the referee. Most importantly, if they throw their hand up, or even if they don't, the referee may approach them and say, what did you see in that play? And the referee will get their opinion and what they saw, and then go back and make a determination on the call in that shot. Instruct line judges to turn off cell phones. I hope it's not necessary. Don't bring your darn phone onto the court. Remain attentive and avoid side conversations. Follow play and be prepared to provide that opinion when asked. Avoid being influenced by spectators and players' line calls. Again, it says avoid. It should say do not be influenced by spectators and players and who might make a line call. Respond to every out ball on assigned lines. Verbally yell out loudly, visually outstretched arm. And I like to point out that the outstretched arm should be in about a 45-degree angle. It's not straight up. It's on an angle indicating the out of bounds area that the sideline that it's missed. So if I'm holding up my right arm, I'm looking down the side arm and the court is to my left. The out of bounds area is to my right. And that's where the ball has gone. Palms are open. hand straight up in a 45 angle. And when I'm training this, I have found that what you want to tell the people is make the verbal call first, yell out, and then throw your arm up in the direction of the out ball. If you try to move both of those things at once, I find a lot of people get very confused and they start mucking up their hand signal, not knowing which arm to make. And then the players look at them and going, well, were they sure that ball was out? And they were sure the ball was out, but by making the mistake of not getting the right hand up and doing the right signal, now they've made confusion. So I teach verbal call first, and right after you get the verbal call out, simply outstretched arm, and you want to hold it for about 5 seconds until that referee has seen it, or the players themselves have seen it. I've made the call, I said out, my hand is there, it was definitely out. There's no question. Hands back down, put them down at your lap or on your legs, and be ready to make the next call. When a ball is close but in, silently signify with both arms extended forward and downward, hands together, palms down. So you should be standing there, and what you're doing is you're standing ready to make the call, and that ball is good, but we're not going to say anything. We're going to go out like this, and we're going to have our hands overlapping, outstretched in front of us and pointing down about a 45-degree angle to the ground in front of us. Ball was good, and you go like that and just give it a little tap. You hold again for a few seconds. The referee will probably, you'll see him look at you, get that back into your ready position, and be ready to call the next ball. That's so important for me as a referee, especially for that person to be on the ball who has the sideline farthest from my position, so the opposite side of the net post from where I'm standing. That line judge is my key person. They have to be the loudest, they have to be the sharpest, they have to be on the ball and making the calls, because that's the line that I can see least. I need to rely on them 100%.
Question?
When you're making that call, you want to make sure you don't go in. It's not a verbal call. It is just a hand signal for the referee's perspective. I asked for that call to be made, by the way, from about that far. The ball is hit in the court, about that far inside the line. I want them to move 2 palms down. It doesn't cost anything. It's affirmation to me as a referee on the other side that that ball was close, but in. Because of, well, they don't like us using the word parallax now. They've taken that out there, but there is a focal length issue when you're on the far side of that court. What you think you see and where the ball is are 2 different things. That, by experience, has been proven to me numerous times. So if you have a line judge and they're doing that for you, you'll find out that that ball is being called in by them, and you would have said, geez, I would have called that out.
Question?
Go ahead.
What do you think about those weird chairs that the sidelines are judges are using in the some of the tournaments? I don't feel that position is the best for them to see the ball. In tennis, they're standing up and they just maybe calling down.
Yeah, I hear you. The handbook says that it is preferred for the line judges to be standing in a standing position, looking over any fencing, any observation, not through. So it's not a hard and fast rule. The other thing that comes into it, and I don't know whether in Florida at the Worlds that they have those slingback chairs that they're sitting low on, is because they would interfere with the audience. But yeah, my personal opinion there would be, yes, they need to be standing, and they were at Nationals in center court all last year. They were standing. They had chairs to sit during timeouts, but they stood the rest of the time, and that's certainly my preference, just like tennis, as you point out.
Thank you.
Al?
Yeah.
This is Marcia, if I may interject.
You may.
Just responding regarding the US Open, the reason that the line judges do sit in those low beach chairs is because of the audience. They're sitting right in front of box seats that that people have paid a lot of money to see the matches. So they don't want that view blocked.
Right, there you go.
Okay.
Money speaks. That was supposed to be funny. Okay, we'll move on. Sideline judges, yes. So we're talking about making the calls. We've done all that. During the match, confirm each line judge's readiness at the start of the match and the start of each game. This is important. This is an area where the evaluators are certainly looking for you. Do you, at the appropriate times, call for the line judges' attentions and to make sure that all your line judges are ready to do their jobs. So you need to do that. You need to be on the ball. You need to be looking at them and go, line judges ready, please. And you get a call. They should be told beforehand in their briefing that when I ask for your readiness, please put your hand in the air, like signaling an out call and going ready, and give you a verbal response. And then when you get that from all your line judges, you know you're ready to proceed with that, the next rally or that game. Before resuming play, you do the same thing at timeouts and any extended periods of pause, whether it's a referee timeout, cleaning the court, whatever it might be. It never hurts to call their attention to make sure that we're ready to go. If line judges or referees cannot make line calls, the rally shall be replayed, okay? If the referees overrules the line judge's out call, the rally shall be replayed. So again, if the referee overrules a line judge's out call, all right, line judges called it out. The players appeal to the referee. The referee says that ball was good. We'll play a replay because that team now was not afforded after the out call to make a move on the ball, and they may well have been able to call it or play it. But because of the out call, they stopped their movement towards it or they just didn't return it. Go back. New line signals for 2021. Clasp hands over the head to signal wrong server and receiver or player out of position at end of rally. That raise both hands in an upward V-like signal coaching. Okay, so sorry. Clasp hands over the head. So what we're doing is we're going to raise it and I'm going to come down here so that you're in this position with the arms fully extended above the head like that, both palms together. And you're signaling that somebody's out of position. No, I'm wrong, sorry. Clasp hands over the head signal. I got to get these down. Marcia, you got your hand signals down here?
Yes. Okay, so out of position is with the hands clasped over the head. Like, I don't know.
Like
just put your hands over your head and put your hands together, clasp them together.
Clasp them together or palms together?
Palms, yeah.
Palms together.
Yep.
Right. And then for coaching happening outside the court?
Yeah, that's just the big V.
Right.
Almost like YMCA, the Y.
Right.
Think of it like that, coaching.
Yeah, not a V. That's right, like a Y. So you're extending both arms out to your 45-degree angle, palms facing each other but not touching, and your body forms the leg of the Y. That's good. Raise hand at end of rally to get referee's attention if other violations are observed or to ask any questions. So you as the line judge, what you would brief them and saying that if they spot something and you haven't seen it, you would expect them to raise their hands, especially if you're looking in their direction or out of the corner of your eye, they're going to catch it. So if you're not looking in their direction, tell them, and then you start moving in their direction, make them make that movement again so that you can see the movement and they can get the hand up in the air. And then you need to go address the situation to that line judge and ask what the issue is and then rule on it based on what they're telling you. Player pre-match briefing, advise players. The referee calls the serve balls that don't clearly pass the non-volley zone. Players call the center line judges call all the other lines and explain the right to appeal unseen balls. Those are still pretty standard things that you can quickly go over at the pre-match briefings. But as you probably are aware that most tournament directors now are sending out anything particular to that tournament, not what the rules are, because the rules are in the rule book, but just what's particular to that tournament. In other words, how long you have until you reach the court before the match is to begin, whether it be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 8 minutes, or 10 minutes. That's up to the tournament director to make that determination. But don't forget that you as a referee cannot call a game forfeiture until that 10 minutes has expired, or a match forfeiture after 15 minutes. Explain their right to appeal line calls, but they, anytime that you make a call, that's the call that stands. As soon as they appeal to you and you make a call, there's no arguing, no discussion, that's the call. All right, so a couple of little mindset things here. It is all about increasing competency, standardization, and consistency, and professionalism. That's what we've talked about in the last 2 days, is that your competency is improved. We have a standardization of how we're going to do everything through best practices. We are expecting consistency through all referees. Any referee should be able to take over another referee's game or a match and not be, looking at a score sheet as unfamiliar with markings or anything else. It should be all the same. Doesn't whether Marcia or Al Thomson or Walter has done the score sheet, they should be all pretty identical. Professionalism is how you conduct yourself on the court, and it must appear to be professional and be professional at all times, especially for those wearing the certified referee shirt or having a level 1 or a level 2 rating. You should be professional and expressing that emanating it at all times. The match is about the players and the game, not about you as the referee. The most successful referee is the one that nobody remembers after the match. And that's so true. You've really done a really good job as a facilitator, and I think that's probably the next one that's going to come up. If nobody even knows you were out there, you've just been able to work your way through, keep the score, keep everybody right, and make it fair for each team. They don't know you, but they sure know the 4 players that were out there that gave them a good match. Questions? Can't imagine anybody having any questions.
Al, I have one. Sorry.
I was just kidding. I'm sure there's some questions.
Al, JD McKinnon from Nova Scotia. Just, you said a while ago about line judges, so that if the line judge calls a line out and you overrule them and call it in, that it's a reserve. I'm curious if there was absolutely no likelihood of the team to return that ball, even though it was in. So I'm hitting a shot like in an ollie, and I jump across and I hit the ball, it lands in and hits the side wall of the gymnasium. So the other team could not return it, but it's still a reserve.
I'd like to know.
Because you've overruled the line judge?
Yeah, I mean, that's the situation here is the officiating team. If you're not able to make a call, if they appeal to you, no call was made on the court, and the line judge is unable to make the call and the referee is unable to make the call, we're calling for a replay.
Oh, sorry, I said, so the line judge called it out, the line judge called it in, and you said it's a reserve. But if I hit that ball that was in and it goes and hits against the side of the gym wall and there was no likelihood, no possibility of them returning the ball, is it still a reserve?
Forget the gym, because we're not going to be in that situation.
Okay.
We have referees in the tournament. So your question still stands and is valid, that if a ball is hit close to that sideline and the line judge, we're saying, calls it out, and then the team appeals to the referee and the referee says that ball was in, we're going to allow a replay on that because the referee called it out immediately. And we don't know whether that person was paused from making the return or not. So because of the unknown factor there, we're going to play a replay because, again, the officiating team contradicting one another. and we play it.
Thank you.
Alan, the question?
Yep.
Yeah, it's Dave Roberts from Fredericton, Alan. Thanks very much for offering this course and being so patient, you and Walter both and everybody else involved. Just a question, you commented on a ball going over the net, backspins on the other side, let's say a backspin in non-volley zone, whatever, and it curves its way back and hits the post, hits the horizontal bar. I understand it's a replay. But if it curves back and hits the net, there's nothing in the rule book that says that's not a point.
Yeah, there is. I think if you need to read the new rule book,
Yeah.
it is a let if it hits the net or the net post or any horizontal bar.
If it gets caught in the net, yes. But if it's a great shot over the net, backspins back and hits the net, and the player lunges for it and misses it, sorry, point.
Nope.
Ah, that'll be a point of debate then, because we've been debating behind the scenes here on text messaging.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I would have to get the rule book out just to show you chapter and verse, but I'm pretty sure that's in there. And why I'm so adamant is that, again, at Nationals last year, there was a pro match going on, and I was sitting in the stands watching, and that situation occurred. And one of the pro players said, "That's a let." Well, I'm talking 2 years ago, and I looked in his direction, going, "Well, that was no let." And then, oddly enough, it gets written into the book that is a let situation. So Marcia, you're there. You just want to confirm for me that I'm not wrong on that one?
Walter, by the way, had a good point, Al. Walter's response to it was, you cannot use a net or a bar to your advantage, but I still don't see that in any of the rules related to, I understand when it hits the net and gets caught between the bar and the post, yes, but it hits the net itself, in my word, it's a great shot.
Correct. It's a great shot, really. If the ball hits the net, it hits the net only. The ball is still in play.
Correct.
So you're saying I'm wrong, Marcia?
I didn't use those words.
That's okay. I did it to myself. That's why I said it so plainly. Al, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And we say that the ball is dead when it's touching the ground. So that means that the ball is still live when it hits the net.
Correct.
That's correct. It's still in play.
But if you play that ball off the net and your paddle hits the net, you still lost a point.
Correct.
That's right. That would be a fault.
Thanks, Walter. Appreciate it.
Alan, on the same question, I was asking the same question earlier when you were talking about nets, and it was the exact same question, but a little twist to it for me was that I thought in 2021 that there were no more lets. So was that an exception to the rule? So now I know that it's certainly not going to be a let, it's going to be a good play. But are there still lets at all then? Like, because you said that was a let and I didn't think there were lets anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting little connotation you have there. I call it a let because I did the officiating for squash. And any time that you had an interaction on the court where you're going to play a replay, you would call for let. And the referee would make a determination of yes let, no let. And then the umpire would make a determination of stroke or no stroke, which meant that if it was a let, the person did avoid it. Were they in a situation where it was actually a point? And that umpire would then award a point to the other team because of the severity of the let. So I have always looked at lets as being a replay situation. I think USAPA Pickleball is saying there are no more lets because the let was associated only with the net serve and not a let because of a hindrance. I've always looked at it again, if a hindrance, a ball comes into the court, we will play a let, we'll play again. But that's not in the rule book as far as definition for the word let. So that's something that maybe Marcia and I can take back to the rules committee and look at for next year. But that's the way, I don't know whether they've had that conversation, but because I come from another sport where let is used universally to just mean a replay, it's got nothing to do specifically with a net serve. It's a general term. They have it more specifically with the net serve, and there's no more net let replays.
Okay. Thank
Alan?
you.
Yes.
Alan, would you repeat who may say what and the consequence before the third shot?
So I mean, it's pretty plain that if a player stops play before the third shot is made to address a wrong score situation, and if the referee had called the wrong score, then a let will ensue. I mean, a replay will ensue. No problem, no foul. If that person who stops the play and there was no error by the referee, they have created a fault.
Okay, so they can ask, am I in the right court?
Now you're asking something differently. Yeah, but go ahead.
Well, they can ask for the score or ask, am I in the right court?
They can't ask that before the third shot. They can ask, are they in the right position, the right court, et cetera, right up until the person strikes the ball, right? And before the ball is struck, if they ask the question, that's when you throw your hand up and call time, stop play, and address the situation. If they have asked the question about their positioning or whatever else after the player has hit the ball, you as the referee must ignore that question, unless that question again has to do with an incorrect score, of which then they have until the third shot to ask that question, and you would stop play and make a determination.
I got you.
Okay, good, good.
I have a question.
Oh, no, not you, Isabel.
Yes. You speak earlier about, I'm a little confused about questioning or challenging. Could you explain more about the score? You can question the score, but you cannot challenge. There are difference, I think, between those two elements.
Yeah, Marcia wants to answer that one.
Okay. I think we try to simplify that, basically to a challenge being a situation that occurs after the score is called. So if a player questions the score after the score is called, you can if the score was called incorrectly, it's a referee error. If the score was called correctly, it's a player challenge and it's a fault. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of makes sense. You're talking about a timing issue there, and so it's a determination of whether it's a question or a challenge as a result of the whether it's correct or not. See, Isabel was going to ask that question because Isabel did all our translating for all the rules into French, and she has had to go down, of course, word by word and look at it. So she's very aware and very thorough, and will pick up these things.
And I read on Facebook Don Stanley's scenario where the server hits the ball, the receiver returned the ball, and the server hit the third shot. And after hitting the third shot, saying, "Oh, ref, I think there's an error."
Yeah.
And maybe you can explain it, Alan, for me. It's going to be faster and easier than in my French.
Yeah, I think what Don was getting at there was where we have the two, not the two rules scenario, but the two options scenario, where they determine that after they hit the ball and it goes into the net or they hit it out of bounds, they want to question and say it happened on the serve and they want to question the release of the ball. So if they catch the ball after a serve has been released and say, I didn't see the release, that's fine. But if they strike the ball and then say, and hit it into the net and say, I didn't see the release, they have made a fault. And you're not going to give them the two option rule here.
It was not that one, but maybe I will ask you or Marshall later.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
I think what it comes down to is that if the player could have stopped play and had a legitimate reason for it, that's allowed. If they make the play, make the determination of making the play and subsequently hit a fault, then that referee is not going to give them the free hand at it. That's again the 2-option rule, and that it just doesn't fly. So you either stop play or you hit the ball. You can't decide to hit the ball and then go, oh no, I didn't mean to hit it.
Yeah. But I should have looked at this scenario before. I didn't think about it earlier. But I will send you the question because it was confusing for me.
Okay. Right. Anybody else got anything covered in both days?
It's Mike and,
Oh my God, yeah, there are. So let's go, Edwin, is it? Or Mike?
it's Mike here. I got a question. I was going through the changes of the rules, and one of them is Rule 5A2. It relates to changing the starting server.
Yeah, good one.
And they have 2 scenarios. One is that the team made a change to the starting server, changed the armband, forgot to notify the referee, and he noticed the change and corrected them, and there was no fault, which is fine. In scenario 2, they said they basically made the changes themselves and forgot to notify the referee and served, and of course were caught as a fault. But my question is, in scenario A, if they made the changes and forgot to notify the referee, and the referee never noticed the change themselves and they served, is that okay?
Mike, I'm going to answer it this way because we had this, that's a very confusing area. And I had to really wrap my head around it. And we've had quite a few discussions. And I even sent some notes to Don to get some more understanding of that as well. And maybe even Marcia, I think. My understanding, and of course, that was also covered in the certified referee discussion that we had. So again, this is an area where there's a lot of discussion, and because it is confusing. So good question. My understanding of it, the full intent of it, and that's what you need to know, is not too worried about each of the different scenarios that could happen. Did they advise? Did they not advise? Whatever. What the rule comes down to, and Marcia, I hope you're listening to this to make sure that I don't wrongly speak, is that everything is okay as long as we have, if a fault has not been violated or created, if the person with the band is serving. They can forget to tell the referee that they were going to change their server. And the referee has a responsibility to be really checking that service band before they call the score and check and make sure. If they miss it and they subsequently have that person with the band serve and they get a point and win that rally, and then the referee notices, that point will stand because the correct server, the person with the server identification made the band. So it's not important that the person didn't tell, okay? That's just a foresight or administrative thing they forgot to do. They're not going to be punished for that. If that person, if they told the referee they were going to switch positions and the referee rubbed out their name, did all that, and they forget to change the band, right? And the person without the band goes up there, the ref has him or her listed as the starting server for that team for that game, but they don't have the band on and they serve, that's a fault. And then they're told after the fact to get the band, when it's determined, to get the band onto the right person. So it's only going to be a fault if the person with the band is not receiving or not serving as they should be. Marcia?
That is correct. Okay. And this is covered in the handbook. It's 5A16. That second paragraph tells you the players are not penalized if they forget to notify you that they have switched the band. However, they are penalized if they forget to switch the band.
Well, they forget themselves that they did.
Right, right. So the key is the band. Who is wearing
Yeah.
the band? That is the official starting server.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, Walter and I talked about this one after one of the other Zoom sessions we did. And there was a lot of scenarios, and I was going to try to answer all the scenarios. And I started questioning myself. And so that's when, you know, it really came down to it, that there's no intent to punish anybody by creating a fault situation. If they failed to report, failed to notify, that's okay, as long as it came down to the person with the ban served and the person with the ban received. So
basically everything else is irrelevant.
That's
Either
right.
way.
That's right. You just fix it as soon as you possibly notice it and possibly can.
Okay. Very
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Al, it's good.
Go ahead, Jim Gilpin.
Okay, Al,
All right.
thanks so much for all of this. A suggestion I have from having taken the scorekeepers course a couple years ago is that it's a really good thing to have the opportunity to practice whether you call yourself a ref or just a scorekeeper, whether it's in a tournament or just in club play. I would suggest club play. Really good idea just to copy those score sheets, set yourself up and practice going through the mechanics of using your clothespin, turning the clipboard around, keeping track of score. There's a lot to that. And I think it's wonderful to have that exposure from this course, but I think it's a mechanical thing that really requires practice. And I would urge people to take the opportunity to do that.
Right. So just adding to what you're saying, Jim, because of the COVID situation, it's not easy for us to get out there in groups of 4 and then have you as a referee being 5 on the court and doing that refereeing at this time. So what I have suggested and what I did actually before I went to certification was to go on YouTube. And I would look up, and coincidentally, and funny enough, I watched Marcia and Byron, her husband, because they're one of the best couple of referees out there, got the YouTube with them in it and made the calls, put it on pause so that I didn't hear their voice. I made the call so that I knew what I was doing. I marked my score sheet and then I would unpause it and expect the referee to do exactly what I've done. Byron was really interesting because Byron, if you ever noticed, he had his score sheet behind his back. And when the camera was actually on him, he would never show, he would not move his hand to bring his score sheet up until after the point. He would keep observing the people on the court. And then in that dwell time in between, he would quickly bring it up, make his mark, turn the closed peg and get it down to his side. And I have to stress the importance of that, I didn't mention that early on. As you go out there and practice this, you see so many referees that have the score sheet here in front of them and they keep it in front of them during the whole thing. That conflicts with your ability to see things. The players see you looking at it, therefore it's creating question. You take that score sheet and you must get it down to your side or behind your back, completely out of the line of sight. After every time you call, you look at the score sheet, you make your mark, you know the score, you're coming up and it's 2-2-1. So you know that it's service band to service band from the even court. And that's what we're doing. Check the receiver, check the server, state the call. And you know you've already said it to yourself in your head. It's 2-2-1. It's not 2-3-1. It's 2-2-1. It's not 2-2-2. It's 2-2-1. You've said it yourself. Now you're going to say it out loud. And you say it with that even cadence, right? So it's 2-2-1. And you expect them to serve. So get it down to your side. Don't have it up in view. So Jim, good point. Use YouTube. There's a lot of games out there now that have been recorded. You can get in there and do whatever match and pretend you're the referee and emulate them making the call, say point, second server, side out, make your mark. But Jim, you're absolutely correct. The biggest thing I see with new referees out there is that they're struggling with this in their hand and they don't grab the clip properly. They don't do an easy turnaround and get it down to their side. They forget to put the side out marking and they don't turn the score sheet around so that the clip is facing the serving team. And we always have, that's the first thing an evaluator is going to be looking at you for. Is the clipboard facing the serving team, or have they got it the wrong way around? Because right now you've thrown everything in question. Do you have the right people names up? Do you have the wrong people's names up? So yeah, good point. Anybody else?
I have a question, Alan. It's Bill from Markham, Ontario.
How did Ontario get in here?
Yeah, how'd that happen?
Exactly. So I actually have two questions. My first part is last year I got my level 2 rating down in Florida. Derek Prince was my evaluator. I got my level 2 status. Is my level 2 status, even though I obtained it in the US, applicable in Canada? Is it recognized in Canada? That's my first question. And my second.
Stop there, and we'll do them one at a time because I want to correct your nuances there. When you were done in Florida, you were not evaluated. Evaluation is only for certified referees, going from level 2 to level 3. Therefore, you were rated as a level 1 and then subsequently a level 2 or a level 2 right away.
Yep.
So yes, and we are accepting all USAPA ratings and evaluations and certifications in Canada.
Okay, thank you for that. And my second question is, what steps do I have to take to become certified now in Canada? What's my next steps? What do I do?
Hold your breath.
Got it.
Can I interject here? First thing you do, Bill, is contact Karen Hill.
Yeah, I know Karen.
And she should get you, if you're not registered in our program as a level 2, she should make that happen. And then she will guide you onto level 3 or certified in Canada. And then Al says, hold your breath because we are not 100% confirmed on our program.
Okay, I'm assuming that somehow I got on this list to attend this session. So I must be on somebody's list as a referee. So that's a good sign.
So Bill, just I'll answer that. I didn't send you the invite knowingly. You're on my list because I am the referee training coordinator for the USAPA for the region of Canada. Okay, so that's nothing to do with PCO and my work with PCO. My work with USAPA is an RTC, and I have a database of all level 1s, level 2s, and consequently certified referees. However, Jim Michaluk is the certified referee training coordinator, CTC, for the USAPA and in Canada.
Okay.
So we have that dual area of responsibility.
Okay, thanks. And thanks for doing the session.
Okay. Did you have a second question there, Bill, that we didn't get to?
No, the reciprocity was the first one. And then what were the steps to become certified was the second.
Okay, good.
I have a question. It's Jim here from Nova Scotia. And my question, Alan, is when you were talking before earlier about fouls and the score changing, either for the receiver or the server, and not supposed to coach the team. I'm just thinking that, you know, the players are accustomed to changing when they're serving, when the score changes. And when there's a foul and the score changes, I know you're not supposed to coach them, but it happens so infrequently that I can see how it would be so easy for a player not to remember, the team not to remember that they're supposed to switch, particularly on the receiving side, if the receiving side score changes, because they don't usually change sides. So I don't know. And just we talk about being sportsmanlike. I think it would be sportsmanlike for the referee to say something that they should switch.
Yeah, I was waiting for you just to get to that point. Then you're right. It would be very nice for you to do that, but it is not authorized by the USAPA or the PCO in our training. We have to be completely objective, and we can't benefit one team against another. So if you do that, then why wouldn't you do something else that may be a little bit more untoward? I thoroughly agree with you. I mean, when I've had 2.5s and 3.0s that are coming to the tournament for the first time, you're very wanting to coach them and help them along and through their experience. Well, this is my first tournament I've ever been in. Well, here's the situation and you've got to do this. You can't do that. And again, as a referee, you have to be impartial. You have to show it. You have to demonstrate it. And they are not allowed to provide coaching. You could certainly, after the match, talk to that person and explain that scenario to them. When I gave that team technical foul and they didn't have any points and I awarded you a point, you had to switch places. And this is why. So you have to do that after the match. That's the best you could do.
All right, but you do announce that, in fact, they have received
Yeah,
the point,
I
I
mean,
guess. eh?
there's not, that's what I say to sort of get around that. What I do is I make sure that we understand after all the controversy that's happened in the discussions and the awarding of the technical foul, I would say I've issued a technical foul. I've taken 1 point away for the offending team. The score is 7-6-2. That's the best you can do. 15 seconds, get in your positions. And as soon as they get into their positions, you call the score, 7-6-2. And if they haven't changed, it's a fault.
And they could ask, am I in the right position?
Absolutely correct. They can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
We've gone
I mean,
we've gone 3.5 hours, and we've still got 2/3 of the people, and the recording is still going. So
Okay.
I don't want to cut it off, but should we?
No, I mean, let's go until the questions end. I would like to deal with the
Hi.
questions.
Hi, Alan. This is Shrikant. So I am new to this referee program. So what are the next steps I should do?
Yeah, good. I'm glad you asked that question because I wanted to make sure we covered that. So for PCO, and again, because of our COVID situation, this is very, very difficult. And that's why I really appreciate getting 60 or 70 people on a Zoom that are interested across Canada in the refereeing program. So normally speaking, after you've had this is not a required training. It's never been stated to be required, but I tell you, it is so highly recommended. Marcia will back that up and say that as an evaluator, what they see is people that have self-taught and they would come to go be evaluated and they would fall down in their faces in so many different areas because they haven't had this, where we point out that you must know your timeout procedures. You must follow it to the letter of the law. You must do this, you must do that. So that's why this is so important. So after this step, you have to know your rules, 90% on the rule tests. You have to do the same on line judging. You need to go through all those quizzes, know the rules inside out, know the best practices inside out. I failed to mention earlier that I hope all of you had taken the quick start video, because the quick start video shows you how to do the scorekeeping. It talks about the odd and even courts and goes into all of that. So if you haven't seen that, it is most worthwhile, and you'll probably watch it a couple of times. Mark Pfeiffer's in there when he was a certified referee before he became the head referee for USAPA. Does a great job. I forget her name. That was Barksdale. Christine Barksdale was the head referee at that time, and she's in there helping.
Al, are you or Marcia going to update that video, or is USAB? Because it's at a date with the rule changes a little bit.
I'm sure that they'll be thinking about doing that and working towards that, without a doubt. Yeah, they'll have to align everything. They've been very good. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of work that goes into making the rule changes. Don Stanley started in June each year. All year, he amasses information out of all the media. He starts gathering it in June. He starts sending it out to committee. And then that all gets in and goes through a machination of work and comes out the other end, as you know, the first week in December. And then, or in January, and then all the documentation has to be changed. And I'm even very amazed that Walter, doing the same thing in Canada, has pretty well got all our stuff up to date. And Isabel, who's done all the translation in the rule book, not the alternate book, but the rule book and the PowerPoint into French. The people have done an amazing job. So anyway, still answering, where are we going? What's your next steps? Practice, 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 practice. And difficult now with COVID. How do you get out there and practice? Best thing I can offer you is get on the YouTube, get your score sheet in front of you, go through a bunch of games and do that, because Jim hit it right on the head. The mechanics of moving the pin, being familiar with that score sheet, putting in your diagonals has to be second nature, completely second nature. And I know, like I had done, I don't know how many hundreds of games before going for evaluation. I screwed up my first evaluation because I wasn't familiar with working with line judges and made some mistakes. that's why we go through that now, and I make sure that people understand when you're working with them where you're standing, where they should be standing, and how you utilize them to your benefit. So again, the mechanics of that score sheet, so important, second nature. Once you get that step and once you get through that, and again, I was maybe even certified for a year and a half, and all of a sudden I reached that next point in time where I didn't worry about the score sheet. It was second nature. And now I'm really able to focus on what's happening on the court with a whole new meaning, and being able to, because of going through all the quizzes, they set you up for answering scenarios that actually happen on the court. So that when it does happen, you know what instantaneously what the call is. And boy, it makes you a better referee when you don't hesitate, when you can make that call confidently and with experience. So YouTube, practice with the score sheets. And then after that, what we would normally say to you is, then you're ready for a rating session. And there are the people across Canada who are either level 1 or where there are USAPA PCO certified referees. They will rate you, and they can rate you immediately a level 2. You don't have to stop at level 1. If you're proficient enough, you'll go up to level 2. And at that point, then you carry on through. In the US, we haven't got it in Canada yet. We haven't said what you have to do for certification, but let me explain in the US what has happened with their experience is that they have moved now to assign you a trainer and a mentor. Okay, 2 different people. One's tough on you and one's easygoing and will listen to what you're saying and to move you forward. The other person has got to take you out on the court and do an advanced training session. Once you do the advanced training session and pass that, you have that person's recommendation. They will put that into the CTC, the Certified Training Coordinator, and let them know that you are ready to be evaluated in their opinion. And that's when they move. And now if Marcia wants to come in as an evaluator and say the difference of what she's seen from those who have come up through the mentoring program as opposed to previous, she's probably got a few words on that.
Oh, yes. The mentoring program has made a big difference in the rate of passing versus before we had the mentoring program. So, we're so happy to see so many people taking advantage of that and going through the different tiers of qualification to become a certified referee.
Yeah, it's not an easy process, people. There's an awful lot to it. Don't want to dissuade anybody from going that way, but it does mean a lot of work on your part. And it needs that personality of somebody who doesn't get flustered, who can control awkward situations, has the ability to learn. And again, the test is that every year, you get 120 new rule changes. You've got to sit down now, discard those previous rules that you've got so firmly in your head, learn the new ones and be able to apply it. And again, going through and doing the quizzes, either PCO or USAPA, is hugely advantageous. So, again, we in Canada have not decided just how we're going to have do the evaluations and who's going to do them. And I know what I'm going to do, and that is I'm going to go for to be an evaluator in USAPA so that I can bring home that training knowledge to Canada so that we hopefully will be able to certify our referees as our goal in Canada, and they will be accepted in the US. But the US has certainly started the program. They have a very high standard and they have failed. I mean, after how many years now are we talking? I've been a referee certified almost from the beginning in 2015. So, what are we looking at? 6 years? No, is it that long?
No, just about 3.5.
3.5. Yeah.
3.5 years, almost 4.
Right. So about 4 years. So you know, they failed a whole bunch of people to begin with. And now after 4 years, we have 186 certified referees across the 2 countries. So that speaks to the level. And it's like special forces. Nobody comes, not a lot of Navy SEALs out there.
Can you explain?
Terry, go ahead.
Thank you. Al, can you explain, or Marcia, the difference between the 2021 official rule book of the USPA compared to the 2021 alternate rule book?
You know, I just enjoy having Marcia here, and I'm going to let her answer that one.
And thank you.
All right, okay. The alternate rule book is really just a reorganization of the official rule book. It's all the rules. They're just reorganized differently. They're organized differently. So in the alternate, we have all of the rules that relate to everything. I mean, to both social play, recreational play, and tournament play. All of those general rules are in part 2. All of the rules that relate to tournament play are in part 3. Okay, as opposed to the official rule book, where those rules are kind of scattered and intermingled throughout. And so we put the alternate together to just have a book where it would be, we felt it would be easier for people to find the rules if they were, you know, reorganized with like rules together. And it's a format that we had proposed for 2021. However, when it really came down to it, it was decided that we would just put the alternate rule book out there for people to look at and decide whether they like the format. And if people decide that if there's a, you know, a favor for that format, we will use that format for the 2022 rule book. Okay, you will see that the rules are not worded exactly the same. We did try to reword them and make them read, kind of clean up some of them and just make them a little simpler to understand. So that's what the alternate rule book is about. It's really just trying to give the reader an easier book to follow and find the rules.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just saw 84 pages for the official, and then the alternate was 54 pages. So it's probably just the fine print, and that's just a little smaller. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? My God, I think we've reached that point in time, Walter.
I think they're all asleep.
The Bowmans are moving there. I see them moving.
Al?
Yes.
Hello, can I be heard?
Hi, Julie.
Oh, hi. Hi, Al. First of all, I just want to thank you very much for making space for Brian and I to watch the way you've trained on Zoom. Very impressed. Actually, very similar to the way we handled our training sessions this summer. We did 10 of them out here in Alberta this past summer. 8, Brian says, whatever.
By Zoom, Julie?
No, we didn't. We did them in person. And so they were done very similar, though, in person. And I just wanted to reiterate your comment about the score card, or the scorecard. I think probably our participants were really quite, oh my God, she's anal, because I was so tough on that scorecard. Like, it has to be held, the clip has to be in the right hand, in the right space, in the right, I don't care if it's behind your back, but it has to be left to right, and it has to be oriented, and it has to be down. And I think for new referees out there, it's so, so important to get that to that point. And we actually had one referee that came to be evaluated, and he's done a lot of refereeing, was very experienced, refereed a good game. And he said, so how'd I do? I said, how do you think you did? He said, I did great. I said, oh, I'm not passing you. I wasn't passing him to level 1, and he just looked at me shocked. I said, until you get that scorecard in your left hand when it should be, in your right hand when it should be, and it's by your side, you're not going any further. You got to get it. So I really appreciated you stressing that because I think it's real important and
Yeah, I can add on to this one. It's like getting a driver license, right? Class 5, class 7. You can't miss certain rules. If you miss it, then you fail. So we have to be tough enough so that way the upholding of the value of the game has to be kept to the utmost level. So you're absolutely right. It is nothing to say that I'm a little bit nosy or no. It's a rule we have to follow it. So.
Yeah, again, that's so correct, but it comes with that practice. And, once you know what to do and you get hit enough times, and that's why there's that conversation out there. When you're doing practice and you're by yourself, is that really worthwhile? Or do you need your trainer with you or that mentor so that they can point out that, yeah, you were doing most things well, but you missed this, you missed this little subtlety and you need to do this. And that's where you need somebody that's watching you that can tell you, well, that was very good, but you missed 2 non-volley zone infractions in there. And if you don't see yourself missing them, you didn't call it, you don't know that they incurred. So that's where having somebody else watching you and going through those little things are so important.
On the other hand, I think it's also very important to be out there just for the sake of turning that pin, turning that scorecard, left, right, turn back and forth. And if they miss the foot faults, as long as they get that scorecard down, once you got that down, you can watch for foot faults because your mind is not on that scorecard.
Yeah, that's right. Right, if there's no more questions, I want to particularly thank Marcia for attending. Boy, that was really good, Marcia. It was nice having you along, and we probably kept your attention longer than you wanted.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a great class, great presentation.
All right, thanks again. And Walter, I don't know how you do it sitting there. Are you still there, Walter?
Wake me up sometime.
Al?
Yes, Isabel?
It's Isabel. I find my scenario with of Don Stanley. Can I take 1 minute just to?
I'm sure if the people don't want to hear you, they're going to hang up. They're going to leave.
I try to do fast. It's okay. Ref called the incorrect score. Server serves. Reserver returns serve. Server hits third shot. Then the server yells, "Hey ref, you called the wrong score." Receiver then catches the ball. What should the referee do? The answer is...
Don't go to the answer, Isabel. Let's ask the people. That's the 5th shot that's occurred now. Right? That's the 5th shot. They should know what the answer is.
Fault on the person that caught the ball.
That's right, fault.
It seems that it's the server fault because the server challenged the score even if he didn't stop playing. That's what I understand of this scenario.
When did the server stop play?
He never stops play. He just said after he hits the third shot, while the third shot balls in the air going to the receiver team, he said, "Hey ref, you called the wrong score." And as I read it, it seems that even if he didn't stop playing, challenging the score by said, "Ref, it's a fault."
Yeah, that's right. Now reading it the second time, I appreciate what you're saying, and the point that's being made there is that they have challenged it during the play of the game. The ball is alive, the third shot has been made, and they challenged the call. Then it's a fault against the player that's challenging it, whether it's right or wrong. At that point, the referee could have called the wrong score, and at that point they've called it after the fact. It's a fault.
So you don't have to stop playing.
No, I mean, this is the hardest area to get across. The points in time here are very subtle. And this is one of the more difficult ones. At what point does everything occur and happen, and when is it okay and when is it not okay? So, you know.
That's why I ask the difference.
You're breaking up, Isabel.
Between asking for a correction or challenging. So what the difference is between asking a question and challenging? I understand then when you challenge, even if you challenge while you are playing, it is a fault if it is after the third shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that scenario, should the referee say fault right after the server hit the third shot and then challenged and cause the rally to stop?
They would call fault as soon as the challenge was made.
Right.
In other words, it's like a line call that's being made out. The ball is dead immediately. The out call is made. So this time it's not an out call, but it's a challenge of the score while the players are playing, and then therefore a fault can be called.
Right. So therefore, the receiving team grabbing the ball is grabbing a dead ball because the referee is already
called. That's right.
Called fault.
That's right.
Right.
Okay, that's clear for me now.
Thanks, El. We're gonna
All right.
run.
All right,
Thanks so
Gina.
much.
Well, thanks
Hey,
to
guys.
everybody that sat around this long. I can't believe it, but Walter could. Again, see you out there on the courts, and thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
All right.
Thanks, Walter. Thanks, Al.
And thanks, Marcia.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you all. Thank you, Walter. See
Thank
you
you all.
soon.
Well, thank you, sir. Done. I am closing the doors.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks a
you.
lot,
Thank you.
Al and Walter. Good job.
All right, thanks.
Yeah,
again.
thanks very much for all your expertise.